Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start our May 21st regular session agenda meeting with a invocation and the pledge of allegiance. So please stand with me. Now, Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for letting us gather together and conduct county business and listen to what the public has to say and let us make the right choices and be with us the rest of this week and help us have a good weekend. And ask us all in your name, amen. Amen. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lord.
All right. A bit of housekeeping. Y'all check your cell phones, make sure they're on vibrate. We got or silent. We got a timer up here. Everybody's going to call public comment 3 minutes. Trying to keep it short and sweet. What you need to tell us, and we'll get started. All right. Need a motion to approve the agenda. So moved.
Second.
All right. Got a motion from Commissioner Searles, second from Commissioner Graham. Comments? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Public announcements, presentations, and awards. Russo?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have with us representatives from the Suwannee Water Management District and the Department of Environmental Protection. They're going to provide an overview of the water quality and runoff issues from Trulieve. We're also honored to have with us Representative Tant here in the audience, who's been instrumental in assisting our county with many endeavors, including coordinating with our state partners on this particular situation. She's going to address the board in a little bit. Before I introduce our speakers tonight, I want to take a couple of minutes and give the board an update on some of the things that have been happening since the last Trulieve meeting. At the board's request on April 23rd, I sent a letter to Suwannee River Management District, Department of Health and the Office of Medical Marijuana Use, and the Department of Environmental Protection, outlining issues and requesting action and guidance concerning water runoff, water quality, and air quality issues. On April 30th, I sent invitation to the DOH, DEP, and the Suwannee River Management requesting them to attend tonight's meeting to provide updates and any regulatory actions that have been taken or are planned. On May 19th, I sent a letter to the Office of Medical Marijuana Use and attached 12 odor complaint forms requesting them to evaluate the quality and quantity of air filtration systems at the facility. On May 20th, I sent a letter with 3 quotes to Trulieve outlining 3 water quality testing companies. The quotes were from AccuLabs, Pace Labs, and Thomas Environmental. Once we determined the company that we're going to move forward with, I'd like them to come present before the board on the methodology before they begin operations. Just a moment to talk a little bit about enforcement information as it relates to our county's authority. The county's ability to regulate medical marijuana cultivation facilities is heavily limited by state law. Specifically, Section 381.986 Florida statute, which preempts regulation of cultivation, processing, and delivery of marijuana by medical marijuana treatment centers. Pursuant to state law, if the county violates an express preemption, it could be found liable for damages and attorney fees. The primary enforcement authority with jurisdiction over Trulieve is the state, specifically the Department of Health, Office of Medical Marijuana Use, the Suwannee River Water Management District for stormwater, and the FDEP for water quality, discharges into the state water, and other environmental violations. Again, the county has no authority to enter or inspect Trulieve facility without Trulieve's authorization. The state, however, does have authority to conduct special inspections and take appropriate enforcement actions when necessary. As I previously mentioned, Trulieve applied for and received a special exception in a site plan approval in 2019 from the county. The special exception outlines the following criteria: location and the layout of the buildings, the road system, the drainage. Suwannee River Management District must approve their drainage process through a permit. The wastewater and potable water, first phase connected to a septic, second phase to city sewage and the water system. A buffer needs to be maintained 50 foot around the property. Parking with 365 spaces and 8 handicap spaces. And we have a provision for noise and odor control. Noise and odor control will be controlled through a landscape buffer as well as carbon filters on the exhaust vents on the building. But again, the county has no enforcement authority as it relates to water runoff, water or air quality. Before I introduce our state agency officials, we're honored to have Representative Tant. She's been a strong advocate for Jefferson County and very involved with this particular issue. She's currently finishing her 3rd term in the Florida House of Representatives for District 9, which covers Jefferson, Leon, and Madison. She currently serves as the ranking member of the Careers and Workforce Committee and serves on the Budget Committee and Natural Resource and Disaster Committee and the Select Committee on Property Taxes, among others. Additionally, she also serves on the Agriculture and Natural Resource Appropriation Subcommittee and the Select Committee on Hurricane Resiliency and Recovery. She sponsored a number of bills and projects that have helped our county, from backup generators for our hurricane shelter to new fire trucks and equipment for the Sheriff's Office in the aftermath of hurricanes. Most recently, working closely with Sheriff McNeil, she's filed a bill, HB 4001, that's going to help reduce medical services for inmates, the expenses associated to Medicare. She stays very busy. So I'm honored to invite her up to say a few comments to the board on this particular issue.
The only thing I really want to say is that I want...
The green button, where it says push.
Where's the green? There it is. The only thing I really have to say is I'm here to monitor. My office has been following this closely. We've tried very hard to ensure that the state agencies are here as we are the liaison for this community with the state. And we're here to assist and make sure that here to take notes, and if there's any follow-up that needs to be done to assist with that measure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, I'll introduce the Suwannee River Management District representative as well as the Department of Environmental Protection representative. So we have with Suwannee, we have Tyler Winburn as the Legislative and Government Affairs Coordinator for Suwannee River. He attended the University of Florida and earned a law degree and a master's in agribusiness. He's been with the agency since January of 2024. Also with Suwannee is Leroy Marshall. He's the Chief Professional Engineer and also became Director for Resource Management in the Project Division in 2024. This division houses the Office of Environmental Assessment, Environmental Projects, and Environmental Permitting and Water Use Services. And also we have with the Department of Environmental Protection is John Truitt. He's the Deputy Secretary for Regulatory Programs. Previously, John served as DEP's Chief Advisor for Environmental and Regulatory Policy. He also served Floridians as the Chief Prosecuting Attorney and Section Manager at the Department of Health and Chief Advisor for the Public Service Commission and Chief Attorney at the Office of Public Counsel, as well as several private law firms. Prior to his career, he served in the U.S. Army, including extended combat tours in Iraq. He earned his law degree with a focus on environmental and land use law for Florida State University. So welcome Tyler, Leroy, and John. We'll have Suwannee provide a presentation and then we will move into DEP's portion. We do have a microphone tonight to pass around to the audience to make it a little easier for comment. Tyler and John. Leroy.
Okay, good evening, board chair, members of the board. I have two questions. One, is there a pointer or anything for me to move? Yeah, okay. All right, and then how long do I have? I want to keep it under.
However long you need.
Okay, dope. All right. All right, board chair, members of the board. My name is Leroy Marshall. I have a small presentation that's going to go over a couple of basics and then what we've done with the project, and I hope that after that, that will answer some questions about what we're doing and what was permitted and all of that, and then after that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. So can we go to the next one? So some basics. Suwannee River Water Management District, we have in our division, in the Resource Management projects division, we have two sets of rules that we implement. One of them is the stormwater rules. That's going to be 62-330, the Florida Administrative Code 40B-400, and Applicant's Handbook Volume 1 and 2. So those are the rules that govern stormwater permitting. We also do water use permitting. That's going to be 40B2, 40B3, and an Applicant's Handbook there. This site received both a water use and a stormwater permit for the Trulieve site. I wanted to mention that when it comes to the stormwater, our focus is stormwater. We don't focus on air, traffic, waste, noise, light, any of that kind of stuff. That's not in our purview. So when we get an application, we're looking at the stormwater and the discharge of that water, and that is all. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time about application sequencing. So there isn't an official sequence when someone is requesting an application, but they have to go through different agencies. So when the district gets an application, any application, we don't know if they've been to DOT, to DEP, to any of those other agencies, and we're not allowed to have to request that they go see those agencies first. So if they come to us, we take what they give us and we make sure that what they give us meets rule. It is very common that a business can come to us, get a permit, go to a different agency, and that agency makes changes, and then they have to come back to us to modify the permit. So I say that just to say that when they come and get our permit, we're only looking at the stormwater, and we're looking at whatever we have in that application at that time. They can go to other agencies, go to other departments, other entities to get all their other permits, and typically, if there are changes that impact the stormwater system, they are supposed to come back to us to get that permit. That sequencing is going to be important a little later when we get further down the slides. So what you're looking at here is on the left, you're looking at LiDAR, which is light detection and radar of the Trulieve site. And on the right, you're looking at the LiDAR of the site as well. On the left is 2007. On the right is 2019. I wanted to have you guys look at this because what you're looking at is, if you're looking at the red, that's high. That's the higher elevations. The dark blue, as you get dark, in the bluish area, that's the lowest part of the site. So in 2007, before Trulieve was there, rain that fell on that site would all drain down to that northeast corner, as you can see where the blue is, and that was 2007. In 2019, you can see the kind of the outline of the pond, but the pond is discharging in roughly the same location as it was before Trulieve was there. So I wanted to make sure everybody knew that the site would discharge prior to them, and the site discharges after they're there. One of the things, some of the criteria we have when we're reviewing is called the water quality volume. So the water quality volume, typically that's where your pollutants are. They're in that first flush, we call it. That's going to be typically your first 1.5 inches of rain. So in that first 1.5 inches is where the majority of the pollutants are going to be. And for a stormwater system, once you have 1.5 inches rain, your pond should go dry in 72 hours. If it's less than 1.5 inches, 72 hours later, it should be dry. If it's more than 1.5 inches, that goes up into our higher range. That's when we talk water quantity and not necessarily water quality. Once you get into rain events over the 1.5 inches, our rules, we only look at the 100-year events. We look at 500-year events now. When this came through, it was 8 100-year events, and we'll look at that a little bit later. But we look at the 100-year events. The 100-year events for conversation is about 10 inches a day, 10 inches in one day. So we're going to be, so when you get that 10 inches, the pond typically has 30 days to recover. The rule says half of the volume in seven days, the entire volume in 30 days. So for instance, there was a rain event, I want to say in April. I don't remember the day, but it was maybe the 20th or something like that. But it was measured to be 2.2 inches of rain. So I went out there about 3 days later, and the pond had a little bit of water in it. It wasn't completely dry, but I went out after the 72 hours, and as I expected, it was pretty close to being dry, which is what you would expect at that time. Trulieve had a 1.5 inch rain on the 12th, and I went out there today, and that pond was dry. So the pond is work. Well, I won't say it's working. It was dry. How it got dry, I'm not really sure because I wasn't there. I do know that they were doing some pumping. I don't know if they pumped after that 1.5 inches the other day or not, but as I said, when I went out there today, it was dry. Open versus closed. So when you have a project or a system that is in an open basin, what that means is when we're looking at the runoff rate, we're looking to make sure that the post runoff rate is less than the pre-runoff rate. Okay? For an open basin, we're not looking at the amount of water that's leaving. We're only looking at the rate of water that's leaving. In a closed basin, we look at the amount and the rate. But in this case, it's an open basin. All of this water flows on out. It's an open basin. So in our criteria, we weren't looking at the amount of water that was leaving. We're only looking at the rate of water that's leaving. This because we're only looking at the rate, it allows for dry detention and as well as retention, but it allows for dry detention. If it was a closed basin, you would not be able to do dry detention, but because it's an open basin, you can. So the thing to keep there is the post discharge rate has to be less than or equal to the pre-discharge rate. Go to the next one. So what you're looking at here is the calculations that Trulieve's engineer provided to us of the pre and the post discharge rates. If you look at that if you look at the first column, those are the storm events. As I said, we only look at the 100-year events. We look at 100-year 1 hour all the way up to the 100-year 10-day. And so if you look, the next column is the pre-rate, and that's going to be the rate that leaves the site before construction. If you look at the second column, that's the rate of the water leaving after construction. And as you can see, if you look on there, all those rates are less than the pre. Go back for a second. So we had some comments about there being some discharge from the site, and they were saying it was like 25 gallons per minute or something like that. And there was some concern that flow would be over our design rate. I wanted everybody to understand the types of rates we're talking about in a 100-year event. 1 cubic feet per second is about 440 gallons per minute. If you look at that in the precondition, the lowest one for a 100-year event is 35 cubic feet per second. That's about 16,000 gallons per minute. Okay? So a 25 gallon per minute pump or whatever it was doesn't even register in our calculations because we're designing to those higher numbers.
Mr. Chairman, those numbers real quick were based off of Trulieve's. Do y'all have a way of verifying that from Trulieve's? Do you have the discharge numbers you said were from Trulieve's engineers?
This is for Trulieve site and their engineers.
Do y'all have a way to verify what Trulieve's engineers have put out?
We check their numbers. we check all of their numbers when we do the review.
How's that done?
We have a model,
Engineers?
we have engineers
Okay.
and we have models that we run to check theirs, and as long as they're pretty close, we're okay.
Thank you, sorry to interrupt you.
And I'm sorry, Board Chair, I didn't ask your permission, I'm sorry about that. Permitting history, so I wanted to go over the permitting history. In April of 2019, Trulieve approached the district, is what we call pre-application. There was conversation about what they were doing and all of that prior to the application. That lasted a couple of months from April until July of 2019. And then in July 2nd of 2019 is when they applied for the first permit. We issued that and again in July of 2019, it was for about 25 acres of impervious and the stormwater system. They came back in November of 2019 to modify the permit. They increased their impervious from about 25 to about 30 acres of impervious. Got that permit in December of 2019. Then they came back for sequence 3 in February of 22. And it was for an expansion of the system, the expansion of the pond. Remember when I was talking about dry ponds? So what happened with phase 3 is they had a retention pond. And the retention pond, which is what most people are used to, when that first inch of rain that I talked about would go into the pond and it would stay in the pond and percolate down, and the discharge would be after the first inch and a half. That's called a retention pond. They had that and it wasn't working, so they switched to a detention pond. So when you switch to a dry detention pond, we had to make sure that volume of water, that 1.5 inches of water quality, had to be dispersed on site before it was discharged because of the pollutants. So phase 3 or sequence 3 is what happened in that modification. Then they came back in sequence 4 because as you'll see when we get to the compliance slide, that was sequence 4 was in response to a complaint by Mr. Lamb. And then sequence 5 was actually submitted last week before, and it is to rectify or redesign the system that is out there in order to separate the operation water from the storm water. So that application is in-house and being reviewed right now.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
You said the retention pond wasn't working. Why wasn't the retention pond working?
Board Chair, can I add?
Yes, sir.
So the soils underneath, they had some really clay soils that was not allowing it to perk as well as they thought it would. And because of that, they switched from a retention pond to a detention pond.
So there were obviously mistakes from what I understand in their original engineering of trying to handle the water. Did I hear that correct?
Board Chair. All I can say is that the design that they had for the stormwater pond was not working. So they did a modification so that we can
But
meet
I
the
mean,
rule.
I would think most people in this room would like to think that the job done before it was implemented would be sufficient to handle it. But it doesn't sound like that was the case.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. What?
Well, to me, it sounds like, or I would think that before it was allowed to be designed and shovels in the ground, that it would be a kind of a foolproof plan to address the runoff. But it doesn't sound like that was the case. It sounds like whatever they thought it was going to be wasn't enough. How does that happen, I guess is what I'm asking.
Board Chair. So typically what happens with all of our permits, you have they do what's called a soil boring, where they check the soil underneath to make sure that whatever they're designing the percolation rate to, that the soils will meet that. So that's part of the application that comes in as part of the stuff that we review, part of the stuff that goes into the model. In this case, it didn't work.
And forgive me because I have no idea about any of this stuff, so I'm quite literally trying to understand it totally. So when I hear that, that's why I apologize for interrupting, but that's just trying to keep up with you. It's a lot of information.
Yes.
Y'all approved the retention pond the first time.
Yes.
And figure out it didn't work, so then y'all approved the detention pond the second time.
We made them. They came back and redesigned to something that would.
So you see where that might draw some concerns from us, like, hey, you know, they thought they had it right the first time. How do we know they have it right this time? Because it doesn't quite seem like it.
I can understand that. I mean, sometimes it happens. This is not the first time that we've had to redesign ponds. It happens. I can think of plenty ponds where when you looked at the soil borings, and you would think that the pond would perk based off the soil borings and everything would work, and then you get out there and get it constructed, and it doesn't work that way. And so you come back and you redesign it, and you design it such that it will work with the soils that you have out there.
And I apologize to interrupt and hijack. I just trying to keep up.
And I'm sorry I didn't ask you.
No, you're good. You're good.
But it happens. It's not, these models and stuff are not 100%. It happens every now and then.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So we're at the fifth modification that came in house a couple of weeks ago on the 13th. You can go to the compliance. So the compliance history. In October of 2023 is when we have documented the first complaint that was brought to us, that was documented. It came in shortly before that, and then October 30th, 2023 is when we went out to the site. Staff went out to the site, and that was when they went out there, they saw that there was an issue with the pond. They got in contact with Trulieve. They said, hey, there's an issue. They issued what's called a notice of complaint. Notice of complaint is when we send a letter to a applicant or a permittee, and it's the first time that we're dealing with them. So a notice of complaint is just letting them know that we received a complaint and we need to deal with that complaint. So we worked with Trulieve. Like I say, that notice of complaint went out in March 6th of 2024. We dealt with them for about a month and had them redesign the pond and sign a compliance agreement. That was done in April of 2024. That's where sequence 4 was submitted. That's what I was saying. Sequence 4 is a result of going out there and seeing that something is not working. We did another site visit in August of that year. August of 25, excuse me. Went out and did another site visit in August of 25. And then in September of 25, we got another complaint from Mr. Lamb. So we continued to work with Trulieve. Mr. Lamb had said he's still seeing problems out there. So we started working with Trulieve again. In November of 25, we received a copy of a complaint that was sent to DEP. There started to be communication between the district and DEP. In February, we met with Mr. Lamb and his representatives. We had him explain everything, all the problems that he was seeing out there on the site, which he did. He gave us a list of all the things that he had issues with. We said, okay, we'll go out there. We went out there, as you can see, in March, 3 times in April, and 1 time in May. All of those were to try to resolve all of the issues that he had. I personally started going out in April, and I can say we are working with Trulieve to address whatever issues anyone had. When I went out on the 10th, they were pumping. When I went out on the 15th, they were not, because I told them to stop. Another example, when I went out on the 23rd, we were telling them, one of the complaints was that there was continuous flow. We worked on a solution to that when I went out on the 23rd. There was no flow from Trulieve. On the May inspection, there were some videos that got on social media that came to our attention. There had been a rain event, and the water that was leaving was really green. It was a good flow of water, and it was green. I went out there on May 5th, and what I found is that it was duckweed. And so, if you look in the top right corner up there, there's the big pond, and then there's that little green looking pond that's up there. I told them that when we looked at it, the duckweed was coming from that little pond that's up in the corner. That pond is now gone, because I asked them to remove it in May 5th. I asked them to remove that pond. I went out there today, that pond is gone. So every complaint that's in our jurisdiction that was brought to our attention, we have been addressing as best as we can on the site. And the modification that they have that they have submitted, we haven't truly gotten into the review, but the expectation is that all the concerns that we have had with Trulieve are going to be addressed in that application. It's kind of a little out of order, especially with the site visits, but we sent a notice of non-compliance in April, and then we had a meeting with Trulieve on Tuesday, again, where we went over all the issues. We wanted to assure that the application that came in addressed all the issues. On the surface, it seems like it will, but we have to go through all the permitting and modeling to make sure that's the case. And as you see, I put there the site inspection today, so I did go out there today to look at it. That's all I have on the presentation. I think the next slide just says questions. So if there's any questions about how we permit, sequencing, the rules, the sequences, compliance, any of that stuff, I'm willing to answer whatever questions you have.
Chairman? Yeah. I have a couple more. You said that Trulieve was pumping water off of their property there. Why would they need to pump water off if the detention ponds were working correctly?
The pond wasn't working correctly in April. That's what they were telling us, is that it wasn't working. So what they were doing was pumping water off-site in order to drain the pond so that they could work on it. So one of the things we did when we went out there is we explained to them that our district doesn't typically issue pumping as part of our permits. It's not typically what we do. I wanted to look into that a little bit deeper to make sure. I already knew, but I wanted to see what kind of numbers we were looking at. The district since 1986 has issued 15,600 plus permits. 99.9% of those do not have a pump. So we're talking about 20 systems over 40 years that has a pump. We do not typically issue any pumping. So when we went out there and saw that pumping, we said, you need to stop.
Okay. Because they, if I'm not mistaken, they stood right in front of us and told us that y'all gave them the permission to do that very thing.
Yes, they did.
Not with pumping. Not with pumping.
I asked them point blank, I said, can you get Suwannee River to put that in writing? And I figured y'all wouldn't want to do that.
It was not in the operation and maintenance plan. It wasn't then. They do have pumping in there because that was one of the things we had them address while we were addressing the list of things was pumping.
Is pumping water off of the property, like in trucks, different than pumping it off onto somebody else's property? Is there a difference there?
I'm so sorry. I'm not asking.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Just go ahead.
Yeah, just go ahead. You're fine.
I do apologize.
No, you're fine.
So pumping into a truck or whatever and pumping it offsite, that is different. The reason being is because let's go back to the permit. So in the permit, if you're going to do something like that, as part of what's called an operation and maintenance plan, you would tell us that that's what you're going to do. And so as part of that operation and maintenance plan, we would ask, where is this water going? How much is it going? How is it going to affect where it's going? Yada, yada. I mean, there's all these questions that we're going to make sure as part of the operation and maintenance plan that's documented and approved to do whatever. The operation and maintenance plan that we had previously did not say anything about pumping. Okay, so when we went out there in April, said you guys got to stop. It's not in the operation and maintenance plan. Okay, and they stopped pumping off site. They started pumping elsewhere. Which
My next question, what do y'all regulate where they pump the water? If they put it on a truck, where does that water go from there? Do y'all have anything to do with that? I mean, 'cause I would think that would be a pretty important piece.
we do. And so if I can finish my thought,
Sorry,
the previous one did not have it in there. The one that, in order to address the complaint that we had, we said you need to give us an operation and maintenance plan that includes what you're doing with the pumping. Okay, so the operation and maintenance plan that they have provided to us talks about pumping. The first part of that is to pump on site and discharge and pump the water and irrigate on site. The second part they mentioned pumping water into a truck and trucking it off site. So part of the review of that operation and maintenance plan is we are asking all these questions. Where is it going? How much are you pumping? Where are you taking it to? Can it take it? How is it going to discharge? What is it an open and closed? Like all those questions are being asked. We do not have the final right now. The conversation we have had is that they were going to pump the water that they had in their operation and maintenance plan to pump the water from the Jefferson site, take it to the Madison site, where it is a closed basin on their site, so they can then take that water and put it into their Madison site, and there would be no off-site discharge from their property. That hasn't been approved, but it's under review, and we're working through that as we speak.
So, but we don't know for sure exactly where the water they've been pumping off is going to. Is that correct?
I can answer for what I have been told is that they are pumping to. There's two basins. I don't know if you can pull that site. Any one of the slides that has their plan on it. One of the aerials. But anyway, there's like a moon-shaped little pond to the side. That's the sediment basin that they use to irrigate out of. And from my understanding, they're pumping from the stormwater pond into that little moon-shaped pond, and then the moon-shaped pond is being irrigated across the site.
Sounds like every time y'all got a problem, you call them and they try to fix it.
That's been my response to me.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
it seems, sir, that is it true that most of the applicant site, Trulieve site here in Jefferson County is within the Suwannee River Water Management District, and none of it is within the Northwest Florida Water Management
It is
District?
within our jurisdiction.
It's totally within your jurisdiction?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one question. And as far as the ponds too, are they strictly for stormwater, or are they allowed to use those ponds for the water with the plants, like the water that they use for the plants and they get done with that? Are they allowed to dump that water into these stormwater ponds? Because I think that might be where the problem is coming in. If it's designed for stormwater and you're adding also this plant water to the stormwater. Like I said, I know nothing about this stuff. I'm not going to pretend to. I'm just trying to trail it out and see what makes sense. But is that allowed for them to do with these ponds?
So the design that they had in 4, and if I'm not explaining this right, just ask me to slow down and try to say it a different way. So there were the 2 ponds. There was the big pond and there's the little moon-shaped pond. So what they did was their operational water, that's what I would call their operational water, and the stormwater were being collected and put into the same system. When on a day-to-day basis, when there's no rain, the water would go down and get to what's called a smart box, which basically, it's not really smart, it just directs water one way or the other. So it would go down to the smart box and discharge it to the moon-shaped pond. So on a day when there's no rain, the stormwater pond should be dry. All the operational water was going down into the smart box, being diverted to the little moon-shaped pond, and then being pumped out for irrigation onto the site. Okay, so the expectation was none of that operational water was going into the stormwater pond, was going into the side pond and being pumped. Okay, remember when I talked about the first inch and a half? Typically, that's in a retention system that stays on site, and then what's discharged is beyond that. So the way the smart box would work is when you've got that first inch and a half of rain, or when it would rain, Trulieve told us that they would stop the operational water. They have tanks in the building. Operational water would stop, the rainwater would go down. The first inch and a half would go through the smart box, go into the sediment basin, the half moon basin, and get pumped out over the site. So the pollutants coming from the parking lots, the buildings, the first inch and a half that we talked about, that water would go into the sediment basin and get pumped out onto their irrigation and not go off site. It was only when you had a larger rain event that it would top the smart box, go into the stormwater pond, fill the stormwater pond up, and then go through the sand filters to get some level of treatment before it went downstream. So the way it was designed and the way it was permitted was to function that way. So the operational water was should not be part of the stormwater. It should only be stormwater going into the larger pond. Once the storm event is over, they release the operational water, goes down, hits the smart box, go back into the sediment pond, gets irrigated.
Okay. I think I followed you there.
Oh, thank you.
We looked at it, when we went out there and looked at it, it's basically a box. When the water flow gets too much, it goes over the top of it and it flows into the pond. When
Right.
it's less than whatever the inch and a half of rain, whatever that flow is, I'm not a water expert, but it goes into that half moon shaped pond right there, and that's where they pump irrigation. They've got the irrigation sprinklers across this 80 acres with the sprinkler with, and then across there.
All right.
So stormwater is basically supposed to go in there unless they described it, unless they have 3 or 4 days of solid rain and they have to turn their water from the plants. If they have to pump this water out after they clean it, then it goes with the rainwater. But other than that, it's supposed to go into that sediment pond if you sprinkle out.
Right.
Sprinkler with the irrigation system.
So I get draws me to the question. So I went out to the site and on the Lamb's property where it looks like there's the little creek there, and it had rained for probably 4 weeks prior to me being there. And while I was there, I mean, there was a steady stream of water coming off of Trulieve's property onto the Lamb's property at a steady rate. So I was sitting there going, well, heck, it hasn't rained in 4 weeks, and if these things are doing what they're supposed to be doing, there's no way there should be any water in there to begin with. How is there any water coming off of this property at all? And what else could it be other than the operational water that they're using on the plants? And my question is, how is that ever okay to be able to do to anybody's property? Like, how is that okay for that water to come off of that property with no rain whatsoever? So it was clearly just operational water coming from the facility onto the Lamb's property.
Okay.
How does that?
Do you know about what time what day?
I don't have the dates, but it was
April, March.
Yeah, it was in April. It was in April.
Yeah. So without me going out there and seeing what was going on, I can't say why it was doing what it was doing. I know what it was doing when I went out there on the certain days that I went out there. Why or what was being discharged if it wasn't pumping, I'm not really sure because I wasn't there. But typically, the way I explained it is the way that it's supposed to work. If it's not working the way it's supposed to work, that's when we come out there and look at it and try to figure out what's going on and try to resolve it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Okay, so, hi, thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is about the compliance piece. So you've noticed, you sent them a notice of non-compliance. What does that really look like? What's the timeline? What's your goals? What are we talking short-term and long-term, and, kind of how are we gonna bring this to a resolution?
So with the notice of non-compliance, what we basically did it, and I do want to say this for everybody here, everything we do, we document in what's called an item, and that item is viewable online. Not only is everything that we do put in that item, but also the applications are viewable online. You guys are probably used to Northwest portal, Northwest Water Management District, Northwest Florida Water Management District portal. We use the exact same system that they do. So if you can manage to get around their system, you can manage to get around our system because they're the same. But if you want to see what has been submitted in the application, if you want to see the what we call request for additional information, all whatever we're doing in that application review, you can do it. You can look at that online. In addition, all of the compliance. So when I talked about the October 30th, 2023, when you go to that item, and the item number is 152004. I had memorized that because I've been dealing with this for a while. But the item number is 152004. If anybody wants to write that down, you can go to our website, go on that item, and you can see every action. It's been over 175 actions on that item, and all of them are listed there. You can see who did it, when they did it, what they said, and any attachments that are there. I said that so that you would know what we're doing. Notice of compliance is in there. Their response is in there. Our response to that is in there. All of that is in there. So to answer your question, we sent a notice of compliance out April 17th. It listed basically the issues that Mr. Land had presented to us. It listed pretty much the same items. They sent a response back to us. We asked them to respond April 24th, I believe, and they did that. They asked some questions. They wanted to see documentation of the things that we were saying.
And I read their letter.
Okay.
Response letter.
I'm just kind of going over it for everybody. We responded back May 13th or something like that with a link to all the document that the Lambs had provided to us and the documents we used to write that notice of non-compliance. When we wrote that letter, we asked them to meet with us on the 19th, which they did. They came in on the 19th. We reviewed all of the issues, and we wanted to make sure that we had addressed all of those issues, either them going out there and doing what we've asked them to do, or putting it in the permit or the permit application. So basically what is going to happen now is that we are going to assess whatever penalties we're going to assess. We're going to write that just like we did before in a compliance agreement. We're going to have our executive director sign it. Their people are going to sign it. That compliance agreement is going to have terms and conditions of things that we want them to complete and a penalty. And then they are going to respond to that notice of complaint. Typically, we ask that they pay the penalty in 60 days, somewhere around in there. And then we have due dates for all the stuff that needs to happen. Typically, with a compliance agreement, the biggest thing is the submittal of the application. Well, they've already done that. So what we will probably do in the compliance agreement is state that it has to be issued by a certain date, and then the construction needs to happen by a certain date, whatever construction that will be.
So we'll kind of follow along in there, but will you all come back at a certain point and update us, or?
You have to do.
Just invite you.
Just invite me to come over. I'll be happy to come over and
I mean, we appreciate you coming out and coming over and explaining the process to us and the folks that are here. We really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Public, out there in the audience want to ask a question? Okay, you want to
Pass the
We got,
microphone.
yeah, pass the mic. We, don't, give your name and address, for the record, and
Okay, I'm Nancy Gephardt, 80 Captain Drive. Thank you all for hearing me. I have a question. Apparently, Trulieve has been in non-compliance for quite some time. And all I'm hearing is we go out and make an inspection once we receive a complaint. Why are you not going out periodically without receiving a complaint? Why are they not being shut down in operation since apparently they are non-compliant and causing undue harm to the neighbors? Why are South River Management not doing more about it? I realize you have statutes and rules to follow, but this continual non-compliance is unacceptable. And I think as board people and Ms. Tant, thank you for coming, I think everybody should be more proactive in getting this stopped. Thank you.
Okay, so if I understood, your concern is you're asking why the district only goes out after a complaint? Is that, okay. So earlier I mentioned that we had 15,000 permits. 15,000 permits have been issued over the last 40 years. I have 4 people working in my department.
But this is years of non-compliance.
Okay, I have 4 people.
And how many neighbors?
I have 4 people to do 15 counties. Okay, we do the best we can with the staff we have. I have 4 people, 15,000 permits, 15 counties, 4 people. I cannot go to every site prior to getting a complaint. I do not have the staff. When we get the complaints, we deal with it. We address the issues that they have, and unfortunately, we cannot keep going back and back and back without an active complaint. I just do not have the staff, ma'am.
Well, then, another solution to that issue would be you're going to assess them a fine. That's fine and dandy. Make it extremely heavy and shut them down until they are compliant.
Okay.
And put cameras up, something. But there has to be a way. I mean, it sounds like the same excuses that we have gotten from Trulieve on and on and on. And I'm sorry, same thing, we've gotten excuses from the board, excuses from the state. And I think the buck has to stop.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you for your comments, and like I said, we're going to do everything we can. We're going to address the issues. As far as stopping their operation, I don't have the jurisdiction to do that. I cannot stop their operation. What I can do is address the complaint, fix it, fine them a penalty, get it fixed, and move on. That's what I can do with my jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question, sir. John Broadway, 287 Nash Road. My question is, it seems to be the problem is hydraulic overload. Does your calculations take into account the condensate? Because I've done enough. They got a ton of splits, and I know they're producing a lot of condensate. Is that also blended with the stormwater? Number one. Number two, they have a permit from you for water use for a consumptive use permit. Is that well actually metered? Because it's simple math to figure out what's pumped out of the ground. Do an arbitrary calculation of rainfall and figure out, well, wait a second, what's going on here? A, are they complying with their consumptive use permit, and what are they pumping out of the ground? Number two, is that why there's an exceedance? They're creating too much processed water overall, far in exceeds of some other permit made by you or someone else. Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like I heard 2 questions. I'm condensating additional water, and then is the water use permit?
Do they have to require a meter, or how is their consumptive use permit calculated? Is it just an hour meter and calculated, or is it actual meter coming out of the ground?
Okay, so the water use and then the condensate.
Condensate, is that combined as well? Because there's a lot of it going out of the facility.
Okay, so the condensate from the air conditioners and all of that was part of that operational water. That's the water that goes through the smart box and goes into the semicircle pond and gets pumped out. So again, if everything is working the way it should, that water should not go into the stormwater pond. It should go into the condensate, operational water. Anything that's not stormwater should go into that moon-shaped pond and get irrigated out. As far as the water use, they've had their water use, I think they got it back in 19 or whatever. Typically what we do after about 10 years, we go out and start metering and checking to see what they're using and all of that. The estimate that we're using right now is that they're not using all of the water that they were allocated. I think they were allocated like $500,000, and I think they're not using but about a quarter of that now.
It's an estimate, there's no way the meter actually knows exactly.
So we will start that in a couple of, I think that's one of the things that we're gonna try to address when we're looking at that.
Mr. Chair, Hugh Thomas was Suwannee River Water Management District. I'm sorry. Hugh Thomas is Suwannee River Water Management District. Just to further answer his question, they actually do have inline meters that account for their water use. And Leroy is correct as far as the documented water use that we have on file in the district, that they are below their allocation.
Thanks, sir.
Kay Curtis, 362 Cook Road. It seems like you're using a lot of data that Trulieve gives you to make these determinations. And I question how valid that is, number one. And number two, when 100 people have been out and seen the discharge of water off of their property onto the land's property, how can that be discounted just because you tell them you're going to come? Well, they don't pump water. I mean, you're not seeing it. So I thought that Ms. Gephardt had a real good idea. What about installing a camera out there to see it? Because we can't trust what they say. They said they were going to be here at this meeting and they were going to have solutions to all of our questions. You see them here? No. And I would like to see more supervision to what they say they're doing. And if cameras is a way to do it, well, can't you do that? I'm sure that the Lambs wouldn't mind you putting cameras on their property to look at it, the water coming across. Thank you.
So to make sure I understand the question, it was about the cameras, and the other point was
basically Trulieve is providing you with
providing us the data.
You're
Okay.
using to make your determinations.
Right.
Well,
Right. Yeah. So when it comes to applications, that's the way the all applications are. They hire a professional engineer. The professional engineer provides all the data to us of whatever they're doing. Our engineers check that
that
data.
professional engineer said that you gave them permission to run this water off on the neighbor's property at the last meeting. Yep.
right.
That's what he said.
I can't answer for him. I can answer
That's what I'm
for.
saying.
for-
That's the kind of situation we're talking about. You're relying on what they say. They prove to us we can't rely on what they say.
I only rely on what they say when they tell me they're going to do something, and then I go out there and check to see if they've done it. Anything beyond that, like whatever he said up here,
What about a water tail system? It sounds like that's what they've got in Madison. They're recirculating their water. They're not discharging it anywhere.
So the circulation of water in their system is not our jurisdiction. We are stormwater. We're not. That's not it. Okay. So the other issue, I'm trying to make sure.
Water flow off.
Water flow off.
I'm sorry, the water flow off their property, it looks like a waterfall coming off of Trulieve onto their property. It has eroded their property. There is a gully now where there used to be a small stream bed. And I don't know, I think it's operational water. I don't think it's storm water because it hadn't rained in much for 4 months. You know, Austin said 4 weeks, it hadn't had any rain. Well, we've had a drought for months and months. There shouldn't be any storm water. And yet there's a tremendous amount of water coming off that property.
Okay. So we have a rain gauge. We know when it rains, how much it rains. We know that, and we also, that's why, like I said, there was a rain event, and 3 days later I went out because I knew it didn't rain and I wanted to go out. So There has been rain over the last couple of months there, and we know when it has rained. So based on the calculations, the pond should be dry. It should be dry. Like I said, I wasn't out there when all of that flowing was happening and exactly where the water was coming from. I can't stand at this podium and tell you why that was happening because I wasn't there. I couldn't see it. But at the times that I did go and saw it, like I said, on the April 10th when I saw the pumping, so I saw it. On the April 10th, we actually got to go on that meeting. We met with Mr. Lamb as well, and we went down onto the state, and I saw the erosion, so I've seen it. You know, we're not discounting any of that information. If you remember when I said we sent the notice of non-compliance and they sent the letter asking for the documentation, we got all that documentation from Mr. Lamb and we provided that to them. So all of the stuff that we received, all the information we received are being used to try to come to a resolution.
So you are just stormwater management, you are not operational water management?
Stormwater.
Mr. Chairman, who is stormwater management? Who would do that, operational water management? Who is in control of that?
Typically that would be either Department of Health or Department of Environmental Protection, depending on how it's classified or acts. I couldn't tell you exactly. Maybe John may want to answer that.
John Truitt, Deputy Secretary of DEP. All right, thank you. John Truitt, Deputy Secretary of DEP. So I was here to answer questions, and that is one of the ones. If you want me to weigh in now, or you want to come up and hit me with all the questions one time now? All right. So the operational water, there is the question of, in terms of the quality of water and what they have to use on medical marijuana, which I do not know. That's through the Department of Health. The operational water, when you're referring to what comes out of the pipe, which would include condensate, which is going to include reverse osmosis reject, plus the runoff of anything that comes from the plants. That's what our warning letter on April 20th was about. We would look at that as industrial wastewater. I know the word industrial is different. Under the Florida rules, industrial wastewater is any wastewater that is not produced in a domestic home. So that could be, for example, HVAC condensate is industrial wastewater. So that is what we're currently investigating. I'm happy to walk through that if you're done with Water Management District, or we can.
Whatever.
Y'all want to finish up with water management? Let's finish up with him.
It's up to the commission. That's fine.
Yeah, let's finish up with me.
Hi, I'm Susan Coker, I live at 127 Heritage Boulevard. I have a question about the pumping. When you went out there and you told them to stop pumping because it wasn't part of your agreement, can you easily bring that pump back out later? I mean, I don't know anything about this, but is it something that can be brought back out later after you leave and the pumping is continued? Or is it something that you actually have to dismantle, take away, and you've seen the dismantling? I just don't know that.
Okay, so I'm assuming everybody can hear. So the question was about the pump that was out there?
Because you were talking about the water, the extra water that's used so often. You said you went out there in April and you told them to stop pumping. So if you went out there like the end of April.
It was mid-April.
Mid-April, so I'm just wondering, why is all that water coming off if it's not being continually pumped? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Okay, so the pump that they were using was a mobile pump. It was on a little trailer.
So you roll it up and bring it back all you want?
Yeah.
Okay, well that answers that problem.
So,
the other question I have is the engineer that you say that you get your figures from, their engineer that you're saying, who is that?
The engineer we've been working with is Sean Morrison, I believe, and it's UC Square. I'm not sure the name of the company, but it's Sean Morrison.
Thank you.
It's Cindy Pyrie, Heritage Hills. I sympathize with you about your staffing issues, but I'd really like to say that I don't believe anyone here thinks that we can continue to live like that. And might I suggest that when one reaches a point of continuous non-compliance, and misrepresentation of what is happening on their property, that you go to fines and you assign an independent monitor. Why can't there be someone on that property that can report independently back to you what is happening there? Fines should cover it.
So typically, we typically don't do that.
We're not dealing with typical situations.
We typically don't hire an independent person to do site inspections and stuff like that. Typically what happens is we either go out and do random inspections or call Trulieve and say, hey, we're coming out, we want to go see what's going on out there. That's typically what we do when we are inspecting after compliance. Like I said, I was out there today. There was no water leaving the pond. There was water going off the site, but there was no water leaving the pond. So, that's twice. That's twice that I've. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said I would suggest to you that the reason is that not water left the site before you arrived. And I would also suggest to you that if you schedule a visit to me 2 weeks in advance, my house will be clean.
Understood. Yeah. We typically don't do it 2 weeks in advance. Typically, I'll text them and say, hey, I'm coming out later today or tomorrow, and then I usually show up.
Surprise visits.
I can do that, and as long as they allow me to own the site, because it is a secure site, I can go out.
Hi, my name is James Lamb, 2200 West Capps Highway. I am the trustee for the Floyd Trust that owns the property. I've had a couple of comments, and I'll say, I appreciate that the event of a 100-year storm, the floods won't be any worse than it would be otherwise, but it's not the 100-year storm that's flooding me. I'm experiencing a flood in the middle of a historic drought. And as far as the water runoff, 2 days ago on Tuesday afternoon, there was about 2,000 gallons a minute coming down the hill for all afternoon. Probably on the order of 500,000 gallons in one afternoon. Did massive erosion, everything else, and that was pretty much the worst thing that had happened runoff event wise since last week on Thursday night from 9:30 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. There was water coming down the hill, 500 gallons a minute. I measured it. I've got a flume. I've got pictures, everything else. So it's pretty considerable. I stopped by the site on my way up here. There was only a little bit of water flowing out. I don't know whether that started after you left or what, but there was still a little bit of water coming. Now, with just a cursory look at the proposed revision 5-5 of the permit plans, and it looks like, of course, they're separating out the processed water from the storm water, which I'm sure is a good thing, but there's no accounting for the fact that there's still a certain amount of water that's going to be pumped out of the ground, and it's going to go somewhere, and if there wasn't any place for it to go before, they're not finding any new places for it to go now. I know that, I believe on the consumptive use permit, they're required to monitor and turn in reports on the use, and there's a report for 2025 that includes 10 months, but I didn't see anything else. I don't know if there's anything else on record, but anyway. So I guess I'll leave with one question, which is, since you're looking at entering into another compliance agreement, is the old compliance agreement still in effect, or how does that work? Is it a double compliance agreement at this point, or I mean, they're already under a compliance agreement. Does that just continue on, or what?
Okay, so, good to see you again, Mr. Lamb. I hope that we are addressing your issues. I did go out there today and there was flow. If you noticed, I said the pond was dry, but it was flowing outside. Nobody caught that. I'm surprised somebody caught that. Maybe you did. But there was flow.
I appreciate your efforts. And I never met you out there, and you
Yeah, so there was water flowing off site. And so what they were doing, they were, if you guys remember when I said I went out there on the 5th after there had been a complaint about the green water that was coming off the site, and it was from that little pond, and they removed the pond. What they did was they put down a riprap spillway type of thing so when the water comes out the pond, it goes across that riprap, and then it goes out off the site. The riprap is there to capture any additional sediment that may come out of the pond, because again, the pond has a sand filter. The sand filter does some of it, but not all of it. When the pond fills up above a certain point, it free flows, and that water that free flows is going to go across that riprap, and some of that sediment and stuff is going to drop out. So what they were doing was they had a water truck out there washing the riprap to get the sediment out of the riprap. That was the flow that was leaving the site. The pond was dry. The washing of the riprap is where that water was coming from. I did see it. I saw the color of it. I saw that, and I am having them address that, sir. That was today.
Just go ahead. My name is Wayne Tatum, 8211 Washington. I have a video I can show you. It came from Ms. Lamb, Mr. Ms. Lamb. I did post it. It's from the 5th or May the 18th and May the 19th.
Okay.
It's not just flowing. It's pouring out there. Well, Ms. Tant, you're welcome to see it also, and share it with you. They are pumping it. You may have told them no to stop it. The problem is when you're dealing with criminals, they're going to do criminal ways. And these are criminals. They're rich criminals.
That's not good name call.
I understand. I apologize. I'll retract that statement. When you're dealing with people that aren't honest, they're not going to be honest. As soon as you leave, you turn your back, they're going right back to what they're doing. And it's evident by their property. This is evident by the property going through my sister's. The pond goes, or not the pond, the creek goes through my sister's property. It goes straight from there, Lloyd, all the way down to Lloyd Creek, goes into the lake drain, which then goes into the aquifer. Then it's been proven by the state, the state checked to see where it was coming up at, Natural Bridge. Natural Bridge arises where the water's coming up out of the ground. Then it goes down in the ground again and goes to St. Mark's River. So I asked on Facebook, hey, anybody seen a lot of algae coming out of St. Mark's in the Gulf? Oh yeah, everybody's seeing a lot of algae. And I'll trace it back to the source.
Okay, so if you have a video, please send it to me.
I'd be glad to share it, and I'm sure the Lambs will share it with you also.
Yeah, I am happy to take any.
I also have another one. I'm sorry, I don't mean to break you. On that, if you look at the back of Trulieve, the first, I guess the first thing you were showing up there of the 100-year flood, and it showed 2 ponds. Never been a pond on that property. There was a low area that held water that I used to duck hunt in when I was a kid.
You talk about the LiDAR where it had the red and the green and the blue?
Yeah.
Okay, those weren't ponds, those were elevations.
Okay.
So what they were...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
There was no elevation because that was farmland.
So what that's showing you basically is just that there was the low areas were lower, the red was high, the blue was low. It's just showing you that there was a low area.
How low? How low are we talking? We're talking a farm field that they harrowed and plowed and had cows in. It was pretty level.
Yeah.
How low would that be?
There is a survey in the application that has the actual elevations that's there. That LiDAR, I didn't put elevations on there, but we have the elevations from the LiDAR. I don't know what they are standing here at this podium. I mean, I could go back and figure that out or show you.
Okay.
Again, there is a survey in the application. Again, so that blue that you see is not water. It's just a lower elevation than the red.
Okay.
That's all that's saying. And so when you look at the colors, what you're able to determine is that there was flow kind of going into that northeast corner. When you had a rain event, the water would go down there. Those LiDARs were flown by the state. They fly it every 10 or so years. We had a LiDAR flown in 2007, and we had one flown in 2019.
I'm curious if it showed the pond that used to be in the left-hand corner in the back of it. They used to always have water. It always had water in until Trulieve built. And they filled in about a quarter of it, and all of a sudden it doesn't hold water anymore.
Which, on their property?
Well, a corner of their property, the left-hand back corner, there used to be a pond there.
On the left or the right?
Left.
On the left.
Again, I grew up on that property. Her uncle was my cousin. I mean, her dad was my cousin. And I spent a lot of time growing up on that property and on our property, which backs up to that property.
Is it top left?
Yep, top left is a
Top left
rear.
over there.
It was a pond
It
there.
shows up on the survey as a wetland.
Yeah. It was a wetland, which they filled in, and now it's no longer wetland. They only filled in part of it. So why'd they fill in a wetland? Who told them they could fill in a wetland? I haven't heard of a permit to do it, and there may be.
Yeah, permits, Suwannee permits deal with wetlands, and if they needed to fill in that wetland, it would have been permitted.
Okay.
I just have another follow-up question. Is there any, I've seen the link, but is there any way that you could send the link to Mr. Russo, Ms. Tootin, and then we could have the link, available for people that want to follow that link for the compliance piece?
For the compliance piece.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there isn't a link.
Understood.
Because when you go to the website and you put in the compliance number and you hit the number, what comes up is a PDF.
I got you.
A linkable PDF that comes up. It's not in the actual, so there's no link. But when you go through there, what I can do is I can send Mr. Russo a video tutorial of how to do it, and then people would know exactly how to do it that way. Unfortunately, that's the best I can do when it comes to the compliance.
Okay. That's okay. We'll find this. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, we have an online question, if we could.
Okay.
Ms. Calvin?
Hi, Ms. Erica. So I wanted to ask, is this current permit that's being reviewed now, there's a lot going on with it. It says the pond and sediment sump will be decoupled to function independently. The pond will be made 1 foot deeper. The sediment sump will become an irrigation pond isolated from the main pond. Is this considered a major change?
So what we have minor and major modifications. I haven't looked at it to see whether we have defined it as a minor or a major modification. I haven't looked at it to see. But in the meeting we had with Trulieve on the 19th, we made it very clear that we would be reviewing it as a major so that we can address all the issues. Typically in minor modifications, it's, you changing an owner or something like that, or you're moving a swale or turning a swale to a culvert or something minor like that. But in this case, we're treating it as a major, whether it's a minor or not, whether it qualifies as a minor or not. We're going to treat it as a major and make sure all of these issues are addressed. and talked to Trulieve about that on the 19th, and everybody's on the agreement that that is how it's going to be reviewed.
Thank you. Mr. Greg?
I asked you guys if I had a time limit. You were supposed to say 1 hour. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, sir. How are you? I'm Dr. Vivian Hall Royster, and I'm interested in, I didn't hear you say anything about, earlier you talked about staffing issues on the 4 persons, and you cover, what, 15 counties, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has there been any discussion along the way, all these years of this time, regarding a strategic plan? How are you determining what the needs are? And with that strategic plan, do you ever do peer reviews? Other counties that may be having similar problems or may have a similar challenge, is there any room for peer reviews, evaluations, program effectiveness, all of those things regarding strategic planning? Because to me, that's where the challenge is. You don't have any direction.
So you're asking, is there peer review of our applications?
No, peer review of the program itself, the Suwannee River Water Management District program. Do you have any document or any layout? It's a roadmap. You can be with strategic planning. Okay, but it will give you a format regarding staffing, technology, program development, your overall goals, objectives, all of those things that will help you, even long-range planning.
Oh, we have all of that.
You have all of that?
Yes, and it's on the website.
Okay, the question is, why would it be at this time a staffing issue? You don't have enough people, you said, to be, when the lady asked about the 4 persons, and they apologize even for not having enough persons on the staff. So how do you determine, or when is it determined at some point, the number of people that you need to have to take care of what person they're asking about in this setting?
Okay, so and I almost want to get you to answer that question about staffing, but
Hey, sorry, the staffing deal, we're trying to deal with the Trulieve thing, this Debbie, I apologize, but if you want to talk to them about staffing, let's do that after we need to. We're trying to deal with Trulieve stuff right now. Let's try to keep it on subject.
okay.
Any more questions about the Trulieve site? And we'll again.
Lynn McGrady, 5370 Lake Road. My question is, if the riprap was put in to contain any remaining sediment, wasn't that a blatant violation if they go out there and pump water over it to clean it out and it just goes on downstream?
So that was part of the meeting that we had today. Whenever you have construction, you're supposed to construct what's called best management practice BMPs for erosion and sediment control. They had some erosion and sediment control BMPs up. It was not enough, and it wasn't doing what it should have done. So
Like those big bales or something, or the white stuff that goes around manholes and stuff like that?
all of that is considered BMPs. So they had some. It was not functioning the way it should. So again, when I was out there, I saw it. I said, this is not functioning correctly. You need to fix it. So I asked them to fix it today. I will go out there in a couple of days to make sure it's been fixed.
With the sediment, I don't know what to call it, the muck that they pulled out.
From the bottom of the pond?
Yes,
That's
from
right.
the bottom of the pond.
Mhm.
Are there guidelines for where that can be dumped, since it's full of chemicals, nutrients, whatever?
I'm sure they are, but that's not me. I'm stormwater. I'm not waste, soil and stuff. So when
But it is a stormwater pond, right?
we look at the functionality of the pond, how it works, What they did with that material, they probably took it to a landfill, but I don't know where they took it. I don't know what they did with it, because that's not us. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question? Sorry. And since this is a stormwater pond, why is wastewater, and so much of it, going into this pond? A lot more wastewater goes in there than stormwater.
The operational water is not going into the stormwater. It's going into the irrigation pond. Remember I talked about the smart box and how the smart box works?
I'm sorry, sir. I just really think that your department needs to have somebody out there watching it. Because there's no way with as much water that comes out of there that is stormwater. When it had a rain, I mean, the video that I have for you, it didn't rain for a week. And there's a lot of water coming out of there. And there's no way that's stormwater.
So
even when the water is trickling out, the concentrations are high in nitrates and high in phosphorus. And
so
I also have this gentleman right here. I was looking for. I'm sorry, I don't mean to touch you. But with DEP, what are they going to do about it?
Okay, so
what are they doing about
it? We discussed the design and how it's supposed to work. That was how it was designed in the original or sequence 4. Sequence 5 is going to decouple the two ponds. They're gonna work independently of each other. So none of the operational water will go into the stormwater system or the pond. They will be completely separated and they will not function together. That is what's being applied for now.
Now, do they have enough property for the size ponds that they need?
For which
for this
set of water?
Operate properly without them cutting back on what their production there.
So you're asking about the size of the pond for the operating?
Yeah, for a wastewater or a stormwater pond and a detention pond. I mean, my head, that they should be two separate things.
And they will be.
One going in, not blending together.
They will be. That's what the sequence 5 is doing.
Okay.
Is separating them.
Do they have enough property for the size pond, or how deep are they going to have to go to make these ponds? And I mean, the deeper you go, the quicker it goes into the aquifer.
Well, you got a microphone. We can't hear you on the computer.
So when those systems become separated, the stormwater portion will be ours. That's the big, huge pond. That's stormwater.
Right.
The Half Moon Pond is the operating water. And that I turn over to Mr. John.
I'm sorry, I really think it should be vice versa with the amount of water we see. I mean, I've been putting it out there. I put it out for everybody to see.
So when 5 is permitted and they separate those two systems, the operational water will be turned over to DEP. They will be figuring out what needs to be done for that, and we will do the salt.
And of course, this will be a DEP question: is why aren't they running a distillation system to clean this water up? Are we using it?
Well, he's here. Would you like to speak to him?
Maybe we'll get done with this and we'll get
All right. Any other questions?
Hi, Alicia Land, 2200 West Cass Highway. I'm wondering why a permit would be, why they would be permitted to fill in a wetland that causes me to lose, sister, to lose our pond. We've lost a pond. And I'm not talking about during this 40-year historic drought. We lost it before that, years before that. Probably not long after Trulieve was operational. So what they did to the wetland on their side seems to have caused us to lose our pond. So why would that be okay?
So when an applicant comes in, they are allowed to impact wetlands, and if it is above a certain point, then we do what's called mitigation. The expectation is that because typically wetlands are surface type ponds, if you fill in or you impact one wetland, it should not, if the wetlands are not interconnected, if they're not connected, then filling in one should not impact the other. There was an evaluation on that. However, if that is happening, that is something that needs to be brought to our attention while we're doing the review so that we can address that. This is the first I've heard of that. So that's something that we can try to address when we do the wetland.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you were the one that came to the board meeting?
I did.
Okay. I wanted to try to catch you before you left, but so okay. Anything else?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Over. Just one question for stormwater. Your jurisdiction is only stormwater, and we have DEP now working it. My question to you is, just for the record, it was detention pond, switched to retention pond. It's back to detention pond.
It was retention pond that switched to detention pond. It was one switch,
Okay.
not two.
Okay. And Trulieve's aware of this, correct? Because the engineer reported something totally different to me. So
Their engineer submitted it, so yeah,
Okay.
he should know what he submitted.
So it's retention, now it's detention.
Yes.
Not detention, now retention.
It's a detention pond now.
It is a detention pond, yes. Yes.
All right, any more questions for Suwannee? Who there? You got an hour and a half.
Well, let me say this. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to come up here. I hope that some of the questions, I hope that our presentation answered some of your questions. I will say this to anyone here. If there's anything that we need to know, please address it to me. Please call me, email me, fax it, whatever. Get it to me. Let me know what it is so that we can review that information, that documentation, and while we have the application in, we can try to address that.
What's the timeline on the permitting that you're needing this documentation?
So we have 30 days from the time the application comes in that we have to either request additional information or start to prepare to issue. 30 days will be June, it was on the other side, June 13th, something like that. It came in May 13th. So we have 30 days. I can tell you that we are going to be sending a request for additional information. There was some things that we have already seen that we would like to have them address. So we will be sending an RAI. So if you're asking for a timeline, I would say in the next 2 weeks, I need to get it because the way the permitting rules are, when we get that application and we send our first RAI, if there is a question, we have to ask it at the first RAI. What I cannot do is send out an RAI and then ask separate questions than what was on the first RAI. So, and again, the RAI is a request for additional information. So if there's any documentation or any issues or anything that I need to know it in the next couple of weeks so that I can put that in the request for additional information.
So we can't go back later with a secondary question that's not related to the first.
That's not related to the first question, right? So, for instance, that wetland question, if I don't ask that now, I can't come back and ask for it later. I got to get it on the first one, okay? So, again, my name is Leroy Marshall. For anyone who didn't know my name, Leroy Marshall. I am the Resource Management and Projects Division Director. I will take any call. I am the one that has taken the point of contact on this Trulieve. So any issues, comments, concerns, please email me. My email is quite simple. It is lrm@srwmd.org. That's very simple. It's nice and short. So please call me, email me. I am here for you. I am here to address your concerns. We will do the best we can with our little 4 people, and we will try to get this permit out as well as the other 87 applications we have under review right now. So please, again, come talk to us. Phone number 386-647-3124.
Marshall, we appreciate you coming out and answering questions tonight.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if we could have John Truitt from DEP come up and say a few words on the issue.
Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. Appreciate having me here this evening. I don't have a presentation presented because we were just starting to be involved in this issue with our April 20th warning letter. So for the background of how I am here today, once the complaint came in and the Water Management District was looking at the stormwater pond issues pursuant to the permit issued under Chapter 373, we were looking at the basic question of how is this much water coming at this time, and with the sedimentation basin and the stormwater pond, how are they being mixed? So the first thing that kind of triggers us, and that's why I mentioned wastewater at the the first time I talked, is that the water that is being pumped from the well is going through a reverse osmosis filtration system before it goes on the plants. So in our world, remember if I mentioned HVAC condensate is industrial wastewater under our rules and statutes, it's Chapter 403 and 62-620. Also RO reject, right? So when you're pushing the water through an RO plant, you're gonna have the concentrated leftover and you're gonna have the cleaner water going down. Based on the conversation we had with Trulieve on May 15th, they showed us a water flow diagram. So in their diagram, the water comes out of the well, goes through RO plant 1, and then goes over to RO reserves. That's where the HVAC condensate also goes. The water will go over the plants, and then it will go through RO1 and then 2 again. And so there's roughly, if the math was correct based on what they showed us, again, it was the first time we saw it, a 7%. So simple math, I'm oversimplifying this, but saying if you had 100 gallons that you started with in the system, right, fresh out of the ground, in theory, 7 gallons is going to be the waste stream, assuming that all 93 gallons is taken from the plants. So that waste stream from an RO is what we're considering industrial wastewater, which is why we sent the warning letter. You have to have a permit for industrial wastewater in the state of Florida. And it depends on where you want to put that. And this goes to one of the questions earlier about can it be, if it's pumped into something and placed somewhere else. The determination of industrial wastewater, if it goes to another facility's pond and that it can accept that and it stays completely on the facility, that is a possibility without having a separate permit. Possibility. There's a whole bunch of gray area here in terms of where you would land depending on the actual specifics, because you have to look at the quality of the water, the quantity of the water, what the system is already permitted for, are the constituents the same, all of those items. If you were going to, for example, we heard one of their possibilities was taking the water and going to the City of Monticello's wastewater treatment facility where their reclaimed water goes and blending. I have no idea if they're going to do this. I'm just explaining to you exactly what I've heard. There's no application in-house to do that. That requires a permit application both on behalf of the wastewater treatment facility and on behalf of Trulieve. You can't just put a stream in someone else's already permitted discharge without that entity saying that they will accept it, so it would change. So that can't be done unilaterally. If it is left in the sedimentation basin under our rule 62-620 for disposal, so in theory it's going to be irrigated on site. When you have industrial wastewater, the trigger is going to be, the main one is monitoring. What are the constituents in the stream of that wastewater? So whether it's either being percolated or whether it's being land applied with their sprayers for irrigation. It's being land applied. We have spray fields around the state of Florida that is done with wastewater. For example, I'm based in Tallahassee. The city of Tallahassee has a large spray field that happens to be their domestic wastewater influent, but spray field idea, same thing. When you have a spray field, depending on the quantities, you may have to have groundwater monitoring wells. You're going to have some kind of impoundment or system that is going to ensure that it doesn't leave the spray field. So we're currently talking to Trulieve right now about the debate of do we clearly have industrial wastewater or not. I know Leroy did a good, explanation of the jurisdictional lanes. I wanted to add one, so DACS, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, when you're looking at, let me use your term, Commissioner, if you're okay with it, operational water. So if you have ag, you have operational waters, and they have the best management practices in the agriculture world. And since they're in a BMAP, a Basin Management Action Plan area, it's the WSISA BMAP, you have to have certain BMPs you do for regular ag. Now, when we thought of ag, I think originally when the statutes were written, which was actually around the time I was born, the most current versions in the late 70s, that was always traditional open air ag, right? Where you sprayed on the field, you were going to have runoff, you fertilize, you have the appropriate, and those are the BMPs. So in the new eras that we're seeing now, not just with medical marijuana plants, but the indoor growing operations, is not the typical runoff that you would have just going back to nature, right? This is consolidated in an enclosed facility and going through a pipe. So it's a different, I'm not going to say it's a novel concept, but now it has come to the forefront of, okay, as regulators, this is something we now have to adapt to. So that is the caveat for me saying I do not have a specific answer for you today, and you can blame that on, I'm a recovering lawyer, so that's my fault. But that is the current discussion we're having. So we're not only working with the Water Management District, but we're also having conversations with DACS to see if, because they're registered as a nursery, that is their registration with DACS. I know the land is zoned agricultural, etc. And what we have been told is, since they're agricultural, their position is they should just have the BMPs. But our position as we're going through this investigation is to, water quantity is what's going to really drive the answer, right? How much is coming out of the ground? What is the waste stream? What is the constituents that are coming out of that water? Can it be allowed under 62-620 to sit in a sedimentation basin and essentially percolate back? Would that warrant a monitoring well on site? So for us, for DEP, this size scale of an operation is an operation of first impression. So I do want to stress that is important from my perspective. So I have all the regulatory programs at DEP under myself. So 6 district offices, air, wastewater, Office of our Division of Law Enforcement, and the Florida Geological Survey, which is very lucky for me because every time we start talking about groundwater, I have the state geologist to go to and ask. So from that sense, we want to make sure that with this type of operation, regardless of what the plant actually is, that we're considering that the right way in the future. So that's part of the investigation going on right now. With a warning letter, I know the question will come up whether there's a timeline or not a timeline. We don't like to sit on anything at all. So we had our first meeting May 15th. I'm sure there are going to be questions and or comments coming in based on hearing me talk tonight. So I will flag that right now. I can. If you Google me, John Truitt, Truitt at Florida DEP, it'll pop up. You'll have my email and my direct line phone number to my office. Please, I always tell folks, I never turn down requests for a meeting or a phone call. It might not exactly be on the schedule you're hoping for, but I promise I will do it. So we will go through this. Like I said, we had our first call, and that involved their chief legal officer, counsel. We had counsel for our side on. I was on the district level, the way my jurisdiction or my powers are divided up in the jurisdictions. This is out of the Northwest District, which has an office in Pensacola and a branch office in Panama City. They also have a few people at Tallahassee. That's where DEP's headquarters is. But I have offices, Jacksonville, et cetera. Northwest is the primary. The director of that is Elizabeth Orr. If you Google Florida DEP Northwest District Office, you'll get all their contact info. But I'd say for anybody listening, you can reach out to me first because it's probably easier. I can be a single choke point on this. Like I said, with talking to the Water Management District and then DOH and looking at the BMAP aspect of this side, which is in DEP but not under my purview, and DATS coordinating, I think a single point would be useful. So I'm volunteering for that one. That is absolutely fine with me. We have, to your question, Commissioner, about a single link we can get to. So we have a system called Oculus, which has files associated with different facilities, including facilities like they don't have an industrial wastewater permit right now. But when we open something like this, we can create an Oculus link. So Mr. Russo, I'll get a link to you that you can disseminate. And it's a lot easier if I send you a link than if I tell you to try and get it. I can't send you a video tutorial, I'm sorry. So we'll keep everyone updated, and I know we've had correspondence with Representative Tant's office, so we appreciate that back and forth. And obviously, you know, obviously she responds very, very well. Things that come to her, she also kicks over to us and try to explain to her as quickly as possible what we have. So we're right now in the investigation era. So like I said, as it goes forward, assuming they have to have a permit, we would also look at doing a consent order, because that is something that is binding, because if you've been operating without a permit, for example, then you're going to have penalties and corrective actions that are required. And obviously we're going to be talking to our Office of General Counsel. I'll also talk probably to the legal team and EPA, because a lot of our wastewater regulations are just adopted straight down under the Clean Water Act. And when you're looking at where the water goes here, it wouldn't get to a water of the US, it would get to a water of the state, which I have jurisdiction over as well. But we have similar interpretations to them, and they have the similar agricultural versus industrial type discussions. So I just want to see if they also have any experience in any other state with seeing these types of things, to make sure that, you know, if it's novel to us, maybe it wasn't novel to somebody else, because we want to get it right. So that's why I wanted to explain that. Now, I know there's a lot of other questions probably relevant to me, but I do not remember them all. So I'm here for you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming as well. I didn't tell you that right off the jump, but thank you for coming out here. You said operation of first impression. Sounds like a legal term. I'm assuming it's that's meaning this is something that's not typically permitted by you guys or seen by you guys. You said that there was other indoor growing operations that weren't medical marijuana. What else is grown indoors like that?
Okay, thank you, Chair. So in terms of other growing, we've seen one in the South District. My South District is out of Fort Myers. We've seen one come in. It is a berry type farm. I don't want to give away the actual name of it, but anyway, they actually came in, and what they do is all of the runoff is collected. So it's not an impervious surface floor, but the way they have greenhouse type things set up, and the way the greenhouse actually plastic goes kind of into the ground, any runoff is actually concentrated into a ditch. And then they're wanting to put that concentrate, because they also use reverse osmosis. That's a key difference here, that most other farms don't use reverse osmosis for their water, right? They're going to pump water using a cup and then probably just put it on there. So what they do with their reverse osmosis, and then it blends back with the runoff, which again is not the same concentration, because you're going to have uptake by the plants, so there's going to be some concentration left. They're requesting to put it in a percolation pipe that runs under the dirt in the middle of their greenhouse area. And they actually filed requesting, we would like an exemption from an industrial wastewater permit. And they open acknowledge that we're doing RO, we have a stream, we think we would need to qualify, we think we qualify for an exemption, but we'd like the department to tell us that. That literally came in a week before we started this. So that's why, you know, I said, in this scale, this is a scale of this first impression. That one is another one that's gone on. Now there are other facilities that don't use the RO. Again, I want to stress the RO is the key here. That will have potentially a solid platform that the water is pumped and it goes on the plants, and it may run out and it may come out through a pipe and then just go across their property. But there's no concentrated stream of whatever you remove from the RO. That is more, granted it's coming out of pipe, which is a point source, versus ag, which is considered a non-point source. If you think sheet flow versus coming through a pipe. But that water hasn't, it's got the exact same constituents as you would have had if you sprayed it on a field and just happened to channel everything from the field to one point. But the filtration, and then that stream is a separate waste stream versus then what comes off the plant and then come back together. That's the question that we need to understand. Not only, you know, define wastewater, whether that falls in that category, but then that would include the constituents of that. If there's going to be a discharge, what could be allowed based on groundwater quality, surface water quality, the BMAPs, what monitoring would apply, etc.
Thank you for that. If I'm not mistaken, at one point, this facility was the largest indoor marijuana grow facility in the entire United States, if not the entire world. Do you know if that's accurate?
To my knowledge, that was the statement that was made, I know, by the company itself. I read that in an article. I'm gonna go off that.
Okay, so, I mean, with something like that though, I mean, is it not safe to say that since nobody has ever seen anything like this before, I mean, should we not err with a little more caution, you know, permitting some of this stuff to these guys, just out of fear of what the unintended consequences are? I mean, we've seen what's happened in some other places with certain corporations and the waters and rivers in Holloway, for example. I mean, how do we know that if we've never seen anything like this before, how do we know that we've got it under control and that we're not going to end up in a situation that in 20, 30 years we go, wow, what a disaster, what a horrible decision. How do we prevent that from happening? And I know that's a massive question for you, but I mean,
I appreciate that, Commissioner. And so the start of the answer is, so I'm bound by the laws and rules of the state of Florida, right? I enforce what the law is. I am completely agnostic as to who is asking me what to do, or if they're allowed to do something. That doesn't matter to me. My concern is, do you have outputs, either wastewater or, you know, waste or things like that, that can affect one of our rules and regulations? So under a wastewater permit, that is set in rule in terms of whatever water body it's going to. Say it's percolating to groundwater, say it's being discharged to, you know, surface water, or say it's being trucked somewhere else to be blended with another wastewater discharge. All of the rules set up, the constituents and the level, all of those have to be. They have to be monitored on a certain rate. Usually it's monthly on discharges. Sometimes entities have more, sometimes entities have less. I have heard of cases before. So I first came to the department in 2016. So back then, and there was some before my time, where when you were seeing something from the first and you were usually dealing with either a process that was original or a contaminant that you had, you know, is normally not in a process, but they created a new process so you get a new thing. They've upped the monitoring and reporting requirements on the front end to try and catch that. So that would be what we would see here and what we would do under state law and the federal laws we've adopted in our rules is you would have to have a chemical analysis of the waste stream, for example, if it was permitted, where it was going. And the limitations on that waste stream would be set to whatever the receiving thing is. So if it's being mixed in another reclaimed water pond, then it would have to meet that and get permission from whoever's pond that is. If it's percolating to the ground, it has to meet the groundwater standards, or water of the state, surface water, it would have to meet those. And it's in a BMAP, which reduces the nutrient, obviously nutrient loading a lot. I know I just saw a recent letter today, and it was calculations regarding nutrient loading, so I know the BMAP team, it's under a different deputy secretary, but we've got that to him so they can go through, they're the ones that develop the numbers and such. So to the pointed question, should we take more caution on? I have to follow the law. Now, if you have a surface water discharge permit, for example, any permits of heightened interest, if we go down that route, which I'm going to go ahead and say now, it will be, applications must be publicly noticed, and we can hold a public meeting if requested. So we're not there yet. Like I said, nothing is in-house yet, but all of that, we would have to go through that process should something actually be permitted. And it's going to be, you know, we're working closely with the Water Management District based on the permit mod they have now, because separating those two kind of clarifies the issue in my eyes better, right? You don't have a mixing problem now. Now we have whatever came off impervious surfaces from rain, and then whatever came out of the pipe and the filter reject. So that's how I'm looking at it right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Questions from the board? All right, audience? Name and address?
Clayton Tolbert, 231 Osceola Lane. I'm familiar with the Division of Law Enforcement, and you're the director over that division. Can you confirm if there's been a case assigned to your Division of Law Enforcement for Trulieve?
Criminal case assigned?
I'm asking you, can you tell us and confirm if the Division of Law Enforcement has an open investigation on this issue in Jefferson County with Trulieve?
I can check with the head of the Division of Law Enforcement and find out whether Either we do, or if we can disclose that information, because I know normally open investigations, there's different qualifying rules on that.
There is, you cannot discuss the specifics, but you can acknowledge if one's open or not. If one's not open, can you open one? Because I do have a concern with reclaimed water, as Commissioner Hosper pointed out or attempted to. Trulieve specifically stated to me they are reclaiming that water 3 to 4 times. My question back was, does that raise the contaminants of the water? The 3 people sat there that's trained and educated stated clearly, we don't know. I don't know. So the question would be, it resorts back to contamination, which in plain English would be criminal. So I'm just asking, if there's not an open investigation, can we have one open with the Division of Law Enforcement to make sure there is no criminality associated with Trulieve?
I'll certainly take the information back to Division of Law Enforcement and hand it to them, and they'll go through their process, and then I can let you know if you Google me, email me, and then I'll let you know which way that landed. Because there's obviously the criminal side and there's the civil side. We primarily go down the civil side, but I understand there's both. Potentially.
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead and file a complaint with the Division of Law Enforcement means, and I'll copy you.
Okay, sir.
John Broadway, 287 Nash Road. This is directed to Ms. Tant, and also, I mean, I don't expect a comment, but I work in water and wastewater, so certainly in Central Florida part of the state, right? It's all superficial aquifer, these RO plants. All that discharge from the RO, the reject as you call it, and I don't know the thresholds as far as volume, all of that is sent to their wastewater plant. So I guess this being similar, furthermore, a lot of the plant upgrades that I've been involved with throughout the state is for nutrient removal, nitrogen removal. So certainly looking at this type of facility, it should be probably higher nutrient levels. Ms. Tant, I don't know, is there any discussion in the legislature to try and look at maybe some of those rules for municipal wastewater facilities, because they had to do additional nitrogen upgrades. Tallahassee with Springs, but then the same thing on the RO. Do you think that there's a possibility that they're going to try and look at some of that, or is it the volume thresholds? Because to me, it's wastewater. It should go to a plant. It should be allowed to be, put on the ground or into a surface water, which the rules now, all these customers are trying to figure out where to put their effluent because they can't go to surface water anymore. So, I mean, that's a whole other thing. So, I didn't know if Ms. Tant, if there's any discussion, maybe, if looking at that type of regulation.
We haven't had any discussion. That's one of the reasons why I'm here, is to listen to all of this. The other thing is, we just finished, we actually haven't finished the last session. And we still have the budget to finish, and we're going to have another special. So legislation will not be able to get filed until next year, which will be probably January, will be the filing date. So I'm happy to work with the Department of Environmental Protection as well as Water Management to talk about what can and should be looked at and what we can and can propose. There will also be the possibility of rulemaking. I don't know if you have any authority under your rulemaking or under statute now, would be a good order for rulemaking. Those are things we can discuss. I want to also, before I hand the mic back over, thank the commission for asking for this meeting and for asking for our state officials to be here. This is really an extraordinary, I don't see this regularly, so we're really grateful for the responsiveness that we've had here tonight. Thank you for the commissioners for asking the meeting. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, ma'am.
Since ADJOURNMENT is in charge of the runoff water, what can you say to the lands and the people whose property this water is running onto, rather, the waterfalls on their property?
So it is a good question. The issue is the water runoff right now, if it's coming from a stormwater pond, it's under the jurisdiction of the Water Management District. I'm not trying to pass it up. Now, that's the question of why we're investigating. Because if you have a mix of stormwater and industrial wastewater, then the industrial wastewater is the issue. You cannot discharge without a permit to any waters of the state, which is an enormous jurisdiction. So the issue would be is one, I'm going to presuppose a couple facts to go down the one hypothetical. So let's assume it's industrial wastewater, it is a discharge, it qualifies and needs a water, or a permit to discharge the waters of the state. So then, that permit would not allow for any harm of the adjacent property or anti-degradation rules. Which means if it's going to flow off, they're going to have to come up with some way to explain that whatever the quantity is going to be is not doing any damage or anything else. And they're going to have to monitor for water quality. Now, generally speaking, wastewater permits, we do not generally speaking, we cannot discharge or permit a discharge point onto another private piece of land. Right? So that's generally why you'll see generic surface water, or you may have an agreement between two entities that are nearby. I'm thinking of things like farms like CAFOs, the Concentrated Animal Feeding Operations, even a PDS permit. They don't, if they have an agreement with a neighbor that might take some of their wastewater because they have a large farm too, that could be done. It can be permitted that way. But normally they would have some kind of a treatment train system and it would go to another surface water that's not, wholly owned by an entity.
So there's something you can do to stop this, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, if it falls in the industrial wastewater category, we can. And I think that's why the relationship with us talking to water management districts in dealing with the permit 5 not to split everything, I'll speak for myself, and I assume they'll probably agree with me. I think it makes our jurisdictional lanes a lot easier in terms of this site specifically versus how it's originally operated.
And there's some way to determine where the water's going, because if they have a bigger pond for their stormwater than they do their wastewater, what's to prevent them from just putting the wastewater in the stormwater pond?
So that would be, so if you go to wastewater, we do have, yes, the question was if they split the permit and you have a wastewater pond and a stormwater pond, would it prevent them from putting the two across? So with wastewater permits, we do have scheduled inspections that we have to do. It is different from stormwater permits under Chapter 373. Also respond to complaints. But there is a set schedule and integration. And the monitoring and what we can do, I've seen this done, we've done it in other cases, for example. If you have a wastewater stream and you have a straight stormwater stream, even though the compositions are going to be a little different, you can tell. So that is a simple way to do it, quite frankly, is you understand the baseline of your stormwater pond that's going to be built in, your wastewater pond that's going to be built into your permit, what the numbers can be when it comes out in that pond. And then you know what base rainwater operation is, and then you can test and tell between the two if there's any commingling.
Well, it's pretty evident when you have a drought and you have water running off of their pond in the volume which it's running off, it's not stormwater. And that's what they'd be doing.
Thank you. Nancy Gephardt again. 2 questions. With this runoff, what does it do to the aquifer that the folks that have wells? How is the impact there?
So on that question, so for private wells, the Department of Health has jurisdiction over sampling private wells. It's my understanding they have sampled a few wells in the area of private residential wells.
Not ours.
I know that you can request that from the county health department. I know if you go, Florida Department of Health, County Health Department, pick the Jefferson County Health Department, go to it. And just because I've looked this up, because I've gotten the question. And you'll either have the main line, you can call them, or you could search on their web, on the little search box, and say private well sampling.
Okay.
And they will come out and do it. I know they've done 2. And to my knowledge, what they informed me, again, I cannot speak to the results, I don't know when they were taken, I'm just saying information was relayed to me, was that there were no impacts to those wells.
Okay.
I don't know all of the constituents that were tested for, etc. I'm adding caveats. But that is, so for private wells, it is DOH's jurisdiction for the sampling. For municipal supply wells, so a drinking water facility that the town, whatever may have, that's our jurisdiction. And so that water that comes out of the ground from municipal system, those monitoring reports are sent to us, as well as when the water leaves the plant for the distribution system, those are sent.
Have you all checked with Jefferson Community Waters that give water supply to our neighborhood?
I've asked my Northwest District to reach out. They have reached out, and the initial statement was we don't think we have any problems. We're in discussion in terms of figuring out, does that actually wrap it up, or what are we looking at? So with smaller entities, we usually take a lot more time. They're not as sophisticated in terms of thinking about things we might need to look at.
And that's not a slight, they just don't have a team of, multi-million dollar
I talked to,
engineers.
I'll answer that question for you. I talked to Jefferson Waters. They do have a test as early as, I think, 2 weeks ago, and they have no contaminants that they worried about in there. I mean, everything's,
Okay.
everything's fine.
Thank you. And the last question is, if they go into an MOU with the community water system or whoever, they go into for mixing the water, who approves that MOU? Does DEP, or is it up to the county commissioners to approve that, or both?
So there's two aspects to it. So if they have a memorandum of understanding, if they did that, that would be an agreement from Trulieve and the entity that operates the facility. I don't have anything to do with that agreement. So that would be whoever's in charge of the facility has oversight. They would be the ones that would vote in terms of the water system or the wastewater system. From the permitting aspect, the wastewater facility currently has a permit that says they are allowed to put X type of water in Y quantity volumes in this location. Based on that location can accept that type of water. And if they were going to blend, we have a permit process for that saying, are you still going to meet the receiving water body quality based on the quality of water you're putting in and the quantity? So it would have to meet whatever the discharge point is that they're currently meeting. If that makes sense.
My question is also jurisdictional. Oh, sorry, Carly Perry, Kim Plain. You addressed the private well sampling and the municipal supply well. The first is the Department of Health and the second is DEP. But what about like the well system, BMAP, the basin? Who's testing that for non-contaminants, but like just imbalance, keeping an eye on just you can have stuff that's not necessarily toxic that can upset the ecosystem. That's my first question. And the second one is trucks that leave premises with water, not if, but when. Whose jurisdiction is that? Or should we get like a citizen watch brigade? Because they're going somewhere, but no one will watch them after they leave the premises. Whose jurisdiction is that?
Okay, so first question on the BMAP question, in terms of the West Cecil River, the BMAP area and basin springs. So ecosystems restoration, which is in DEP, that's under the other, it's different deputy secretary on that one. His team is the one that partners with local groups and has their own monitoring stations to be tracking all of that information. So again, you could, if you want to Google, his name's Adam Blaylock. He's my counterpart that's over ecosystem side with BMAP. And they have an entire BMAP team, and I'm sure they probably have a GIS layer to show you where all the monitoring stations are, etc., and those types of things. To the much more complicated question of where does the water go and who has jurisdiction, I wish that was a simple answer. And I'm just being honest. So if the water is being taken to another permitted facility that I have jurisdiction over, and they're taking it there to do whatever they may do with it, right? They're storing it there, they're blending it there, they're processing it there, then that would be under my jurisdiction when it gets to the permitted facility. Now, if you just took stormwater, right? I'm not talking about industrial wastewater because we're still defining what that is going to be here in the investigation for industrial wastewater. If you just took straight stormwater and moved it somewhere else, that's a lot different because depending on where you take it, if you're going to do nutrient loading, etc. on BMAPs and it's going to be a repetitive thing, then wherever the entity is putting it, like for example, it's a landowner, and that landowner, right, in the BMAP breakdown of all the nutrient loadings has a certain quantity that they're allowed to contribute. If it would push them over the limit, then that would come under the BMAP process as well. If you're taking it to another permitted facility, such as a wastewater facility or industrial wastewater facility, or if you went to, some other source, a discharge to the surface water, that is mine. So that's why there is a difference there. Now, in terms of just taking the water, there's not a jurisdiction for picking it up and taking it. That's the simple answer to the question that I am sure is what's spawned the concern.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Me again.
Oh, hang on a second.
Thank you. Blaine Tatum, 8211, Bucking. The water that's being discharged, we know the majority of it, of course, flowing down to the creek, and then it's running these creeks all the way around. Yes, it is going into the aquifer. Whose department would check these rivers and creeks at different spots to find out what level of contamination is, and over time even has happened, and that they're outputting there. Because we know, it's a fact of where this is going, and it's ending up in the Gulf of Mexico. And, it's been estimated over 95 million gallons so far have been pumped out. And leaked out, pumped out, drained out, however, it escaped anyway. And they known they were leaking it. They knew they were pumping it. And they're not doing anything about it, and don't plan on doing anything about it. Whose department is going to hold them accountable?
So the simple answer is, in terms of the surface water, right, it's Lang Branch Creek. I think it's the first named kind of body, and then I can't remember. I don't know the whole sequence. So anything that is impacting a water body and does not have a permit, that's my jurisdiction. I'll tell you that right now. Now I know we've done testing. I know the Water Management District's gone out. I know we've gone out, and based on the low requirements for the BMAT in terms of nutrients, there wasn't an elevated level of nutrients. Now, as in terms of the basin, eventually that chain, that was to my earlier discussion regarding the BMAT team. It has set locations of monitoring. I know they don't take the smallest creeks and sloughs and those types of things, but that map would show, like, if you wanted to try and trace to, okay, where is this joining up in the bigger system? Where do we have an existing monitoring station? We can certainly find that for you, and there's something that's going to exist. But yes, if you have an unpermitted discharge of a wastewater in a water body of the state of Florida, that's me. That's why we're having our investigation right now. And then to answer follow-up question, I know nobody technically asked, but if you're thinking, what if it's proven that it is impacted and it was by a discharge, it wasn't permitted? As part of the corrective actions, you do have to, a lot of people don't think about it, but you do have to remediate groundwater and surface water if you've impacted it. There are ways to do both. So again, it's a hypothetical. It doesn't appear that it was impacted because it's not above the BMAP standards. But just in case anyone had the question in the back of their head, I figured I'd go ahead and tell you the answer now.
Now, with this water is flowing on their property, and there's a good low area it gets to when it reaches where the creek actually comes out of the ground. Has the soil been tested in that area for contamination?
To my knowledge, I don't know of any testing of the soil. I will double check. I can certainly double check. But to my knowledge, I don't think any of the soil has been tested.
I'm really wondering what the phosphorus levels and the nitrate levels are in that area.
Okay, I can talk to our team as part of the investigation, so thank you for bringing it up.
Anyone else?
Any other questions from the audience for DEP? Okay.
How did you get away with a quarter of the questions?
Well, see, I had the old rule from my time in the military. I was always the #1 man in the door. This was the first time I wasn't. I didn't know how much better it was.
All right. Is there any other questions for? All right. We'll move on along then.
Thank you again, Commissioners.
We
Appreciate it.
y'all coming. Thank you very much. Everybody's got the contact.
Before you do, Mr. Russo, will you give an update, because we had reached out to the office of, the Office of Medical Marijuana about the smell, and we hadn't heard anything back. Is that correct, Mr. Russo?
That is correct, Commissioner. We've sent several letters and have attempted to get into contact with the Bureau Chief of that division, and have been unsuccessful.
So if my folks can get somebody from that department to reach out, we would greatly appreciate it. Keep hitting after Mr. Russo. Thank you for that.
And on that same note, I went out to the Trulieve today to talk to them and see, and they did do a permit for their compost pile. They got a permit to be able to haul that off, and they said that will probably alleviate some smell. It's obviously not going to take all the smell, but they asked, and they were granted a permit to be able to haul that off to where they give them the permit for. So they are hopefully that will start knocking the smell down a little bit.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair, you got a hand?
I'm working on it. Mr. Raven?
Yes, sir. My name's Bobby Raven, 1945 West Caps Highway. I live directly across from that place. We have a lot of, the water runoff is disturbing me. The bottom line is, They're running water off onto somebody's property. That's the bottom line. That's the elephant in the room. The other two issues, you mentioned the smell. Come to my place at 5 o'clock in the morning and have a cup of coffee with me, and we'll get high together. Okay? We can do that. And then the light intrusion. If you try to find my driveway, and I said it's right there, well, I can't see it because the lights are so strong coming from their place. I'd have to go up the driveway with sunglasses at 12 o'clock at night doing this. Okay? So I've got more issues than the water, but the water is really blowing my mind. They're getting away with it. And that's just happening. I'm sorry. I don't get up and speak very much, but, and I was an engineer for Boeing, and my mind is splattered right now.
Mr. Chair, I was going to mention that too, the buffering, surely there's something else we could do with that, because putting pine trees up that are just wide is not a good buffer. I know I see them on the side of the road at Simpsons. They got these big, beautiful, bushy tree things. I don't know what they're called, but they look like they do a heck of a better job than these skinny little pine trees.
Sycamores.
But that's just, I don't know how, can we address that in our comp plan? I mean, I don't know how we address that, but the buffering of using pine trees is not the way to go. And I don't know if we can dictate exactly what type of plant, but there are surely some plants that you put out there that would block. And I would like to see it down at the solar site too. Just look at that myself driving by it. It'd be nice if we could put something in where it's a specific type of plant that will definitely block off what they're trying to block off. I hope I said that right. That was all I have.
We're gonna take 5 looks. We got one more.
I'm sorry, do you have time for one more question?
Sure.
Thank you. Nancy Gephardt again. Okay, you're waiting on them to respond. Because my mouth is. Nancy Gephardt, thank you. You're trying to address the smell or the odor, whatever you want to call it. How long do you think we're waiting for them to respond back, whoever you're waiting on?
That's a different agency than us. I don't know. It's waiting on the government.
Okay. Next thing, the sound, the noise. You're supposed to be addressing that. That's up to the county, am I correct, Mr. Russo?
We can do noise checks, absolutely.
Okay. All weekend long, it sounded like crop duster planes getting ready to come over the house. That's not fair to us. Do you know what the decimal level is of those exhaust fans?
No.
I think that would be important to find out. You, Mr. White, should hear those dogs barking and barking and howling right next to your pole barn. We can hear them on Captain Drive constantly. If that decimal level is too high, those poor dogs are being put through misery because of the decimal level of that noise. Have you thought about that?
No, ma'am.
I think maybe somebody should find out the decimal level.
We can sort it out. We've got a way to check that out. That won't be a problem.
Yeah, but seriously, the noise is just like I said, crop duster planes. And I want to thank Commissioner Hosford. He's been a go-to on this, and he's been our advocate. Commissioner White, your Trulieve is in your district. I wish you'd be more outspoken on it, as Mr. Hosford is. Maybe there's reason that you're not, I don't know, but I appreciate how much Mr. Hosford has been doing. Maybe y'all can get together and work with it. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna take 5 minutes.
We got these other items are pretty brief. We can try to breeze through them and go right into the small non-profit. I know there's some folks waiting on that, but these preceding items are pretty quick.
Okay.
You're in the citizen input, not agenda items.
All right, we'll go ahead and do that first, and we'll go on. All right. We got one request from this Broadway.
Yes, I apologize. I wanted to make it with all the audiences here. So John Broadway, 287 Nash Road. First to the commissioners, if you hadn't seen it, I sent everybody an email basically to address. I filed a notice to appeal per my rights with the planner regarding the now Nash Road Travel Center. They kind of changed the name. So
And so just, if you will, look at those documents. I'm making the case, bottom line is it's similar to talking stormwater, right? I appreciate, just respectfully request that you evaluate. I know we discussed and I actually maybe voted on getting a land use attorney to possibly look at something. I think it might warrant having a land use attorney look at the argument I'm making, we're making. Nothing's changed. Stormwater serving truck stop, it's considered truck stop. I know nobody wants it. So maybe this is an ability to maybe take a second look. And I applaud David Wheeler for what he's done so far, but I feel like he could use a little bit of help and maybe a land use attorney looking at the full case, file to determine, you know, if our argument is still valid, because to me it is. So if you look at that, just please review that, and there'll be a planning meeting on that. I will say to everybody here, the audience and the commissioners, if you're upset about stormwater, etc. with Trulieve, currently communities don't have tools in the toolbox to address land use, growth, etc. Our hands are tied. The legislature's done that. But June 11th, there's a planning commission meeting where they will be voting on a comp plan change, a land use change for a Love's Travel Center. That currently is one of the only two tools that our county has. They do not have to approve that land use change. So I appreciate anybody voice your opinion to the commissioners, to the planners, etc. because to me, that's the only tool we got. And if you're worried about this and lights and sound, etc., I'm fighting my own battle, but there's one that you could fight. So June 11th, there's a comp plan change.
Where's that, Mr. Bradley, where was that meeting? That comp plan?
June 11th is the planning commission meeting. Mine is targeted for July, is what David said. So June 11th is Esham Partners. They're going to have it's on the agenda, and it's voting on that land use change for Esham Partners. That's the one in Lloyd. So again, they're doing it a little different the way they're going about it, but in the day, as far as I've talked to David about it and some others, that they don't have to approve that change. And I'm concerned with a slippery slope. If you approve that one change, are you going to possibly look at other properties that are adjacent to residential, and now somebody comes to the same thing and wants to use it? And in my opinion, you guys denied the TA when it went before the board for the same very reasons that they're trying to come in and approve something. So an MUBR to mixed use interstate. So I mean, I just respectfully request you review my appeal and maybe get David some tools, and then also, you know, if you talk to constituents, June 11th is a planning commission meeting where they're voting on that change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Can y'all refresh me? I know we had voted on this board to seek a land use attorney. Where did we land with that? Because I remember we were trying to specifically go after Mr. Theriak, if I'm not mistaken.
I think my recollection was there was back when the board heard the major site plan application for the TA back in, I believe, February of last year. When the board denied it, there was a motion to also have David Theriak represent the county in the subsequent appeal. We looked into that with insurance, and insurance was not going to cover Mr. Theriak, so the board approved going forward with Bill Warner representing the county in that case. But my understanding of that vote was that hiring David Theriak is limited to his potential representation of the county in that appeal. I don't recall any other general direction to seek sort of a general attorney.
Would this board be open to the idea of looking at that again, where we, not just for that specific
yes, I would.
Item, but bring in Mr. Theriak on as subcontracted consultant or attorney, or however that's worded?
I would know we've got Terrell Arline as conflict counsel, and he steps in and represents staff in situations where an applicant is lawyered up, essentially. So he'll be assisting Dave Wheeler in the forthcoming appeal of the minor development application. So he is on board and assists with land use stuff as they come out. He's with conflict counsel. He's not with NDN now.
I would like to see that, because I'd like to see it be Mr. Theriak.
Me too.
Yeah, can we get that maybe on the next one of just
absolutely
give Mr. Theriak back over here and see how we can navigate around this. We know it's touchy on this one particular issue. Council's made that very clear, and the insurance made that very clear.
So, and on this issue, so Mr. Theriak represented Mr. Broadway in the prior application. I'm not sure if he's representing him in this appeal. But so is just so I understand the direction of the board, are you seeking to get a proposal from Mr. Theriak to act as sort of general land use counsel to the county as things
Yes, sir.
come up essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
If anybody that was at that meeting, sorry, Ms. Madam, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mr. Theriak just gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling. He just, you know, if you, I mean, yeah, he spoke in terms that we all could understand, and you knew what he was talking about, and you knew that he meant business. Anyway, that would be my.
I think it kind of needs to be expedited because of the hearing in July.
I have one as well, sorry.
So we want
I guess my comment is, mine is supposed to be heard, and my suggestion, I mean, to the board is, this thing ain't on, I don't think. There it is. I don't like being in stereo. All right, so my understanding is though, and I remember, kind of recollect, it was for major land developments, we can go back and listen to the transcript, to have somebody, Theriak, or competent land use counsel. My concern, Mr. Erline, is some of the comments that he made. If you listen back to that transcript, I'm not sure if that is, you know, I like an independent third party myself, and if I need to, for y'all to hire David Theriak to make sure he is, you know, not representing me, and that would then refuse me from representing me ever again, that's fine, because I'm confident, I mean, very confident in his abilities. And furthermore, this personal appeal that I just made, I called him just to tell him to make sure I could use those letters. So as you can see from those letters, they're the same exact letters, the same solid defensible case law argument that was made then that I made now. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so you can critique my letter, please do. But again, I feel like the same legal argument is solid in that, you know, we got to tread lightly. And I feel like if you could get someone, him or other, I would say let's listen back to Mr. Erline's comments. I would feel like there might be a little bit of conflict there.
Do you need a motion for that? Or?
Yeah, we would need a motion. It does need to be unanimous too, since this is coming up during public comment.
I'll put that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chair.
So, all right, I got a motion from Commissioner Searles, a second from Commissioner Hoffer. Any comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, what is the motion?
To hire David Theriak as a land use attorney.
I think we need to get a proposal from him. We can come back, obviously, with his proposal for you guys to accept it, if he's willing to serve in that capacity, obviously.
All right. No comments, all in favor? Raise your hands, aye. Aye. All right. Any other citizens requesting input on non-agenda items? Go ahead.
Carly Perry, Kinsling. I just want to piggyback on what Mr. Broadway said and reiterate about the stormwater concerns. We said a lot of stuff about Trulieve, and I'll be really brief because I didn't realize y'all had so many things on the agenda afterwards. But I'd like to specifically request that maybe we reach out to Mr. Truitt and maybe get a DEP engineer to look at the stormwater situation for Solero. All of their information has been provided by them. So I would just like to also thank everybody. Obviously loves Jefferson County, our public servants, our commissioners, our representatives, our everybody. And we're just in a little bit of a miscommunication situation. And if we could be as attentive when we're giving these people permission to break ground as we are when we're trying to recover what we've lost after they don't act like good neighbors. I think it was Commissioner Hosford that said we just would really like for them to be good neighbors. And I think that's a bit unenforceable. Mr. Russo said there's no enforcement authority once it's done. So if we could just be as attentive in the beginning as we are going forward, that one is just, do we have any way to get an engineer, and the land use attorney would be good too, but an engineer to look at the stormwater situation for the Solero Travel Plaza. And that will be all. Thank you.
All right. Any other citizens' requests?
Chairman, I have one more from Kate Kelvin. Go ahead, Kate.
Hey, I have
Name and address for the record, please.
questions for the Suwannee River Water Management District.
We've already, Ms. Calvin, we've already closed, they've already left.
My question is, since I wasn't able to ask all my questions, in order to get them in the record, do I need to read them or can I send them and have them put into the record?
I don't know what questions you had.
Well, they're in the chat.
We're not answering chat questions. We're just doing the questions whenever you get online, you ask questions.
Well, I I tried, and I was saying I would like to ask my questions, but nobody was responding. So, in order to get my questions into the record, do I need to read them?
You can, you got 3 minutes.
Okay.
We'll do an ad.
I asked my first question. My second question was, what BMPs are being used at the Trulieve site? My third question was, is it a good idea to ignore stormwater discharge volume in a BMAP area? Wassissa Springs Group is an outstanding Florida spring. My fourth question was, as a part of the Wassissa Springs BMAP, isn't Trulieve supposed to have BMPs, which is best management practices, or monitoring in place? And then to add to that, technical staff reports for all the previous permit approvals, they mentioned discharging into Lake Miccosukee, Lang Branch, and/or Suwannee Creek. Suwannee Creek is listed as impaired in the BMAP interactive map. Where is any discussion of BMPs for pollutant reduction? Those are my questions. And thank you for letting me read them for the record.
Yes, ma'am. Anything else? All right, we're gonna move on to consent agenda approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion for Commissioner Searle, second for Commissioner Gramlin. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
All right, general business. You just wanna run down the business reset?
Yes, sir, Chairman. The first item, the EOC budget amendment, very simple. Every year, the emergency management performance grants received, as I said, annually to the EOC for their operations. It's usually in the amount of about $47,598, which is what we expected last year. That came in $658 more, so we're just requesting the board approve to utilize.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion for Commissioner Searle, second for Commissioner Gramlin. All right. All in favor, or any comments? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed, or no?
Thank you, Chairman. On the next item, it's an approval of an award for a surplus property located 1243 East Clark Avenue. It was .327 acres. The board received title for the property on February 21st, 2022, and approved it to be on surplus November 20, 2025. The property appraiser just value was $19,499. We received one bid for that exact amount. We're asking for approval to award Arlene Early, who deposited $2,000. It was received on May 14, 2026, and ask permission for the chairman to sign.
Motion to approve. Second. Mr. Russo, do you mind updating us when those properties closed out? It's been some years ago, we had some of these surplus properties that either couldn't come up with financing and they just kind of got lost for a little while, but let's just let the board know that, hey, that did close out.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll bring a full report back to you.
All right, we got a motion from Commissioner Hall and a second from Commissioner Searle. Any comments? All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Chairman, the next item is a continuing attorney contract.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Commissioner Searle, and a second from Commissioner Hall. Any comments? All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Chairman. The next item is ranking of your attorney professional legal services. It came in 1, 2, 3, Neighbors Gibling, Nickerson, Constangy Brooks Smith, and Mr. Scott Snagley Esquire. Number one, of course, was Neighbors. I would ask that we move forward with a 5-year agreement with extensions and begin the paperwork to authorize.
Neighbors.
Yes, sir.
Motion from Commissioner Searle, second from Commissioner Gramlin. Comments from the audience? All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. All opposed? There are none. All right, continuing engineering.
Once again, we did our ranking. There was 11 firms. We picked out the top 5. You can certainly go lower than that. It was MLD, Southeastern Consulting Engineering, Kimley Horn, WSB, Neil Schaefer. We asked the board's permission to move forward with contract.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Searle, second from Commissioner Gramlin. Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Aye. All opposed? There are none. All right, item E, small nonprofit grants.
And again, this was brought up at a board recently where the grants are actually for nonprofit organizations to support our initiative to serve our residents. The last meeting you approved 3 associations. You have Monticello Opera House, Mecca Cloud Incorporated, and Jefferson County Humane Society awarded $2,000, which is the max for each out of your $15,000 budgeted item, leaving you $9,000. We have 8 charities left. Our staff has reached out to all charities and received paperwork that might have been missing during initial application. Some of those 8 actually did complete all the required documentation, but they're all squared away now. We do need an additional $7,000 in that bucket if we decide to award the full $2,000 to each one. We do have some speakers here willing to give you brief comments on their particular charity and the work they're doing. And then I have a couple of options for the board's consideration at the end of those. So if the board would indulge the Children's Home Society of Florida, are they here? Okay. Okay, thank you. United Force of Jefferson County, is that representative? Sure.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Cummings. My address is 1302 West Lake Road, Monticello, Florida. I'm the president of United Force of Jefferson County. United Force was founded in 2021 by a small group of concerned citizens here in Jefferson County. We feel that our citizens here, we need the same opportunities as the citizens in surrounding counties. So we wanted to close the gap as much as possible. The events that we have every year, since 2021, United Force sponsors the coat drive right here in Monticello. Last year we gave away over 250 coats, gloves, hoods, and sweaters. In 2023, we decided to donate all coats to Taylor County because they went through the hurricane and they need them more than we did. So we took a vote and decided to take them over to Taylor County. August of 2021, we decided to host a back to school drive. We host it at the park every year. It got so big we had to move it down to the shopping center, and we're still active in that also. Every year we team up with the Jefferson County K-12 and community partnership schools to help them by cooking at the tailgate events before the homecoming game, and we also go out to the school on game night. It's an event that they hold every year where the parents come out with the students and have game night, and we serve the dinners. Our mission is to bridge the gap in our community by empowering low-income families through educational workshops, counseling, mentorship, support groups, and parental resources in an effort to give children a brighter future. With this grant, along with donations, we feel like we can do it, and it's time for us to grow in our community. So that's why we're here asking for this grant. Do you have any questions?
No, but I did see you all do the coats down to Taylor County. I saw that on Facebook.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
That was a great gesture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you all for the hard work you're doing there.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cummings. Very good work.
All right, the next one, Cemetery Restoration and Preservation Society of North Florida, and I appreciate everybody's patience to come up and talk about your charity.
Good evening, Chair White, Commissioners. My name is Jacqueline Seabrooks. Address is 242 Rains Road. I serve as the president of Cemetery Restoration and Preservation Society, and I know some people may think it's strange to ask for the grant. What we've been doing is working with some of the local, like ARI, partnership and with some of the schools. We go out and they've identified over 150 cemeteries here in the state, in Jefferson County. Cemeteries function not only as places of remembrance, but also they have a historic value. They serve as outdoor classrooms. We have students that have gone out with Dr. Boyer through his history class, exploring these places, sacred places. And one of the things that we want to do is we want to develop education, not only for the kids, but for the community. We've had the opportunity, in some cases, to We have family reunions that have come in, and we've actually done cemetery tours. So we take them out to some of the places that they believe their ancestors may have lived in the past. Take them to the cemeteries. They can connect with those places by seeing those names. The students do the same thing. When they see a grave and they go back and they talk to their parents, and it enriches their opportunities to learn some of their past. We were hoping that we would get the grant so that we could create some digital education materials, be prepared for the summer when we have families that are coming to the area. I've talked to at least a couple of family reunions. They're doing their genealogy and research, and they're trying to find properties and where people are buried. So we're hoping that this will at least allow us to do some education, develop some education. We have a YouTube channel where we post when we're going out to some of the veteran cemeteries and acknowledging the veterans, especially some of the veterans that may have died during the various conflicts. So we would just ask your consideration. I apologize for not being here the meeting early in the month, but I did not get a notification. So I'm here tonight and just asking for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Seabrooks. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
I think that that's an important thing to preserve the legacy, especially in a lot of the generational families that we have.
Okay, next one, Madco. Is Madco? Yeah, awesome.
I have a handout. Who would like to be my helper? Yes, one to Mr. Hightower as well.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Good. As many of you know, my name is Melanie Mays, and I am the director and also the founder of the Monticello Acting and Dance Company. And we have been in the community since 2007, but we officially became a 501c3 in 2011, and we have been delighting audiences ever since. But a lot of what we do, especially the project that I am asking the funds for, is the annual children's show. Before Madco started, there were small attempts at doing children's theater, but nothing that was really big. It wasn't reaching a lot of audiences. It wasn't reaching a lot of children to have them participate. So I stepped in because that sounded like a good project for me to take over, and they were really happy for me to take it over for them. And we have been doing great. Our very first show that we did was called Three Little Pigs. And we did one performance, and we sold out the Opera House. So we went from there. Now we are doing 9 performances, actually 8 performances this year. There's a little mix-up with the Juneteenth holiday that falls on the 19th. So some of the summer camps that usually come visit us aren't going to be able to be there. But we believe we're still going to have about 8 summer camps. These are camps that, they hold their programs in Tallahassee. And then I go into a special meeting they hold, and I say, hey, don't you want to come see our show? And so we regularly will have probably 8 to 12 different summer camps come see us, and so we fill up the Upper House. The kids love it. So do the adults. So we actually even have one evening performance. I make the kids work. We are actually doing one show on Tuesday right before the festival. We're doing 2 on Wednesday, then we have a service day where we're going to go to Brynwood and we perform for the people at Brynwood, and then we have a pizza party because that's fun. And then Friday I'm making them do 3 shows. We are working like professionals. We're going to do 3, and then on Saturday we're in the parade, and we also will do 2 shows on the Watermelon Festival Day. So we try to stay very, very involved with the community. We have a lot of fun. I'm especially proud of the fact that since I've been doing this since 2007, I've been teaching dance. I teach them to act, sing, dance. We have such a great turnout. My older students are now starting to take over as choreographers, directors at the Opera House. And I find that to be greatly satisfying. As a matter of fact, the show they're doing now, Fiddler on the Roof, one of my students is the choreographer, and I'm just playing accordion in the orchestra pit. So I'm having a great time not being in charge of anything. It's wonderful. But we really, really hope that you will come out and see our show. In your packet, it's basically things that we've done recently, going all the way back through our history, just lots of great pictures of shows and kids and activities, the support that we do at the retirement home, and then also, actually, I think that's just about it. So, but we also work in the community. Oh, we also get involved with the pageants. So I often will coach some of the girls that are in the pageants. And so we really just try to keep a high profile in the community. And we want to thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, next up, Jefferson County Historical Association. Is there someone here for it? Okay.
Hi, my name is Claudette McRae and I'm representing the Jefferson County Historical Association. Our grant was to provide money to keep the pots downtown, the large pots that are around town, planted, and I think the city is now watering them. When this started, the pots actually belong to the Jefferson County Historical Association, and we used to provide the plants, and we had the garden club plant the pots, but not all garden club members are my age, but a lot of them are. And we no longer can get out and plant those containers and keep them watered. Thank goodness, I think the city now is doing that for us. But anyway, our money, the $2,000 that we asked for, would be to pay the Tallahassee nursery, who this past year has planted them, fertilized them, kept them trimmed, and I think it adds a lot of beauty to the downtown section when people ride through and see all the pots planted, and they're coordinated and planted alike, and I think that it adds a lot to the appearance of downtown, and this is what our money would be used for that grant money would be to continue to pay somebody, Tallahassee nurseries, they're going to continue to do it, to keep them planted and fertilized and maintained.
Thank you, Mr. Trey.
All right, next up, Jefferson County Youth Council.
Good afternoon. We're here representing Jefferson County Youth Council. Most people hear about it. It's called the Teen Center. It's the old building down by the football field. I'm Gladys Roy Watson, and this is Marilyn Halsey. And we have been a 501c3 entity since 2004. We've been in that building since 2000. And when we opened that building, it was the building that was no longer used by the school district. We've gotten it since 2000 for $1 a year, had it 25 years this year. They just recently renewed our lease for 5 more years. I'll probably be so old when that time comes, somebody else will have to take over and do it. But we're here asking for money, and we've done this grant. We've done camp. We have a camp where we take up to 50 kids from 5 years old to 17 years old. Up until this year, we were charging $25 for the 6 weeks. So you do the math and you see how much they have to pay for a week. We provide meals to them. We truck them out to Jefferson K-12 school for meals. It's free, the food's free to them if we get them out there. So we have to do transportation. We see that they go bowling, skating. There are free days sometimes with some of these programs in Tallahassee. And so we get our kids over there. We pay for transportation. The $2,000 would not help pay for those things. Mainly we are having large air conditioning bills. it's super, super hot. And when you got 35, 40 kids in a room, we have to run air conditioning. Last year, for 6-8 weeks, the utilities were $1,300, which is a lot. That building doesn't have any insulation, so we have to really run the air conditioners. And that many little bodies running around generate a lot of heat. And so we'd love to have some help. These are kids, Jefferson County kids. We have them from 7 o'clock in the morning till about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We take them to the park, and we'll take them to Melanie's. Yep. She knows. At one time, we were sponsoring kids for scholarships. All our money comes from grants. I do pretty good sometimes with a pencil, and I get grant money. And we don't pay anybody along with Maryland. We clean up the buildings. We don't pay anybody. So we're chief, what they call them, bottle washers, or whatever they call folks like that. That's what we do. I've done everything except motor yard, and I would have done that, but I can't get my tractor on my truck. So the sheriff's department, their folks have helped us with mowing, helped us a whole lot, because one time we were paying for somebody's motor yard. So anybody want to donate some paint? I'm trying to find a way to clean the building up and paint it. So you can either donate elbow grease, or you can donate some paint. We'd love to have some, but we'd love to have assistance. If we could, for the $2,000, it would mean a whole lot. And we take any kid 5 to 17 years old until we get up to 50. So thank y'all for listening to us. And I've been doing this, Maryland not quite long as I have, but I've been doing this a long time. And I'll do it as long as I can. And it's all about the kids. So thank y'all. You're welcome. I dropped the pen. It's all right.
All right, next up's Dirty Pecan.
Chair and Commissioners, it's so good to see you up here. Betsy Barfield, 387 DeCersey Lane. I'm sitting here listening to all these nonprofits and all the good work that they are doing, and I'm just going to tell you truthfully, Dirty Pecan really did well this year, and we're going to donate $20,000 to Jefferson 4-H for the kids, and also to just all the Jefferson 4-H. And if the board doesn't have enough money, and if you're not going to approve more, I'll take a bypass on mine for this year so these people can have it, because we've done really well, and we do really well every year. So I'm willing to do that, and if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer any questions you have about Dirty Pecan.
That was very generous of you.
Well, I just...
Ms. Barfield, when we got you up there, I know we spoke about it, and there was, at our last meeting, there was just a little confusion about the endowment. You got just a minute to clear that up, and what Dirty Pecan has really done for Jefferson County?
I'd love to. So Dirty Pecan has been around since 2015, and our major thrust is for us to support Jefferson County 4-H, and that is what we have done for the last 11 years. We have donated just about $225,000 over those 11 years. So in 2020, Camp Cherry Lake closed down because of COVID, and that's where the children, our Jefferson County 4-H children, go. We kept donating, Dirty Pecan kept donating to Jefferson County 4-H, a little pot of money built up, and come to find out they weren't using it. So I took $10,000 from Dirty Pecan, and when I was inducted into the 4-H Hall of Fame, I gave that check to the UF president and asked him to please get Camp Cherry Lake up and running, because that's where our kids go, and they're not going to camp. And the money that Dirty Pecan has donated has always sent those children to camp. So right now, thank you, Allison, Tant, there's sitting in the bank is $8 million from the legislature, from raising money, private money, Dirty Pecan, all that all together. We have another $5 million public request up for Camp Cherry Lake. So and we're going to turn dirt on the first cabin of 3 in July at Camp Cherry Lake. So we have made some incredible progress. So the reason I created the endowment is because I didn't have a place for that money to go, and I wanted to stay in Jefferson County, and I wanted to stay for 4-H. So in working with the University of Florida 4-H, I said, I have this money. What can we do? And they said, you can create an endowment. And I said, well, what does that look like? Well, to create an endowment at the University of Florida, you have to have $30,000. I said, okay, let's go. And we were having our 10th anniversary last year. So the way the endowment works is Dirty Pecan wrote a check for $30,000, gave it to the Florida 4-H Foundation. That in turn created the Dirty Pecan endowment for Jefferson County 4-H. That endowment, what happens is the interest and the money that is earned, that is spun off of this endowment, goes towards Jefferson County 4-H kids. They can go to camp with that. They can, if they're in a leadership position within the 4-H organization, they can use that money to travel with, but you have to be a Jefferson County 4-H member. So that's creating more money. Dirty Pecan's getting ready to write them a $15,000 check from the last Dirty Pecan that we just had in March of 2026. So we're growing that endowment for Jefferson County kids. The other $5,000 stays locally here at Jefferson County 4-H. So outside of the $10,000 that Dirty Pecan wrote for Camp Cherry Lake, we also write checks to the Jefferson County FFA, Future Farmers of America. And this is the best thing about it. So Sheriff Mac McNeil, he came to me, and this is a couple years ago, and he says, and I'm hurrying, and and he says, hey, how can we get some of that Dirty Pecan money? And I said, well, what do you need it for? And he goes, we need it for the FFA kids. I said, well, I don't want to just donate it just to operating. Give me an idea. And they came up with purchasing jackets. So those FFA kids are now walking around with their jackets with their name on it. And we funded about 20 jackets now. And we've also funded the shirts that go with it and the pants that go with it. So that $220,000, that has stayed here in Jefferson County. That has stayed here for our Jefferson County kids. And it is such a pleasure to do this event and to support it. And you know, there's people in this room that supports the Dirty Pecan, all of y'all. And it's and you do, and it's not just that, it's different things that y'all do to help this program move along. So I thank you for that, and that's why I come to you today. We did well. We're going to donate $20,000 to the Jefferson County 4-H in the endowment, and then straight to them. But again, I mean, I would enjoy having the $2,000, but if you're not going to approve it, then I'll take a pass and come back to you next year. So, did that answer your question?
That answered my question. Thank
Okay. One other thing, I did check to see how much Jefferson County Board of County Commissioners has actually written a check to Dirty Pecan. And Mr. Clerk, what was that? What was that number? It was TDC money and board money.
Correct. We pulled the Dirty Pecan vendor profile from the old system. Hold on just one second. The old accounting system as well as the new one. Our new one, AccuFund since 2024, it went live. There was a $5,000 disbursement made, and in our old Pace County system, $6,000.
Mm-hmm. So what was that total? 11,000, about 11,000. So, and when I was a commissioner, the money flowed directly to the Jefferson County 4-H. And when I rolled off the commission, that's when I opened up a checking account, because as we were raising money, I needed a place to put that money in, and that's where we disperse money from. So, and if any questions, you have all your paperwork. Do you need anything else from me?
No, I think we've got all your. You recently got your 501 and 24, so
Okay.
I think we're good.
Great. Questions? Questions?
All good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have one question, if I can. What is the balance in Dirty Pecan now?
What? Well, we don't really care. I carry a small balance for the next year because I have expenses as we crank up for March, but we disperse all our money. So disperse $220,000 between 4-H and FFA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the last one is Girls of Royalty Incorporated. If there's a representative.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, Hi, my name is Adela Scott, and I'm the president of Girls of Royalty. This October 2026, we've been in existence for 4 years. What is Girls of Royalty? Girls of Royalty is a youth mentoring program for girls ages 5 to 17. The program's main function is to turn girls into queens. Girls of Royalty is designed to work with girls to empower them to become productive citizens, leaders, and have a true sense of their personal power to become successful. Our vision, it is to equip girls of different skin shades with tools to build self-confidence, develop positive relationships, resolve conflicts, make wise decisions, work in groups, and develop practical life skills. It has been a learning experience for me as well as the girls. None of us had any experience with doing this kind of stuff. In fact, my classmate came up with this. It came to her and she told me, and then I brought into it wholeheartedly. And I would just like to say, Ms. Roanne, she has been a godsend to the Girls of Royalty. We utilize the teen center. We don't have any place to go. So every time I've asked her, she's never told us no. We meet every month. We partner too as well with the Department of Health. The impact staff is fantastic. They come out to the girls. We come out at least 2 or 3 times a month. We do workshops, things that they need to know. We do workshops on bullying, effective communication, positive relationships. So I have seen these girls come from shy, timid girls to now they're speaking. I mean, they volunteer. They are leading. You can see the leadership developing in them. In fact, we got 2 girls now in our group that's going to be participating in the Watermelon Festival pageant. These 2 girls, when they first came, you speak to them, hey, how you doing? Whatever. So we see the change in them. I've never did this before. The grant and everything, no grants was out there, but I had no clue how to get them. Someone called me and said, hey, get the paper, read this, whatever. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. So I applied for it and everything. So hopefully, because for the last 4 years, I have been funding it myself. Thank God for 4 jobs, but I believe in it. So, I'm gonna continue to invest my time and invest money into it as well. But it would be a help if you guys would consider us for the $2,000. We never asked anybody for anything before. We've done it all on our own. It's just a few of us. It's about 6 devoted members that comes out, and we work closely with these girls. We go to their homes, we talk to their parents, we celebrate their birthday. In fact, we have one girl that's graduating, 3.8 grade point average. She's going into nursing. She's from Madison County, and we're giving her a celebration, graduation celebration and stuff, and through fundraising and everything, we're going to present her a $500 check towards her nursing career. So we do believe in our girls, and we're with them from the beginning to the end. So please consider the Girls of Royalty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, so options for consideration. We have to consider increasing the amount of money. Folks, the other applicants want the $2,000. Not sure where you stand. Pecan graciously opted out of the $2,000. It sounded like, so we would have $5,000 additional if that's the case. I would suggest the board consider adjusting the line items in next year's local program budget to consider 4-H. I think you mentioned going from 5,000 to 10,000, and we can do that in this upcoming next year's budget. Stipulate those organizations that receive line items cannot again apply for the small grant also. If you have a line item, then give that off to the other charities. And then develop a more robust application process. We're doing that. We've put measures in place per your instructions. We just want to enhance that transparency and accountability.
Mr. Roberts, do you have 5,000? I know you all had some department cuts, certainly at the road department. Could somebody brief us on that, where that 5,000 might come from?
Yeah, we have that.
Can I ask a question? One of the people he mentioned, I didn't think was in the county anymore. Did you say Macca Cloud?
No, she still is, yes.
She 6 months ago, she told me she was selling out and moving. That's why I said something.
Still my neighbor.
Oh, God.
Mr. Chairman, I would just ask that when the board makes their motion, that they make a motion to move enough funds to cover this from the contingency line to the local program line. I think it's still healthy in there, so we can just do that to fund that.
And just to give
Whatever's needed.
a little background on your current list of local programs, Chamber of Commerce is slated for 12,000. Small grant program, the one we're dealing with, is 15,000. Elder Affairs at 30, which is a hold. Humane Society at 5,000, which I'd like you to consider moving that over to the animal control, animal services budget, for control purposes.
I talked to Miss Annie about that, I did, and explained about, possibly moving that over there based on combo, if that was the will of the board. So like moving animals, Humane Society's appropriation to underneath animal services, and move 4-H under extension office.
I make a motion to move those funds from contingency to cover these grants this go around.
Let's do that. I'll second that. And do the grants first.
All right, we got a motion from Commissioner Searles and a second from Commissioner Graham. Comments from the audience? No, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. All right, you need a vote on that other?
We need to vote on any of the
Move the
budget.
line items.
So are you adding the 5,000 or the 7,000 extra for the 8 applications? Pecan was on either way, I think.
My comment was, is if you're not going to increase that, then I'm willing to do a bypass.
I'm pretty tight. I mean, I'd rather keep $2,000, but if you, I appreciate the offer.
Well, I just want them to have an opportunity, but again, if you're increasing, I'd like to still be in the running if that's possible.
Okay. So
I'm good with that, Mr. Chair.
And thank you.
So are you good for increasing to
7,000?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
Amend my motion.
So it's a motion to increase to 7,000
Yes, sir.
and to fund all of the applicants that were presented today.
And then next year, we're
And
gonna
we
do
were
it.
fund all,
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead, sir. We're gonna fund all of them. Are we gonna come back with like a kind of a new approach or kind of tweak up some of our application process and
That's
things like
correct.
that for next year?
That's correct, Commissioner. Yeah, we
Okay.
want to make a little hardier process, not going to be onerous, but just from our side, just some accounting practices. We do, as we should get audited, and we have to be able to stand with the documentation to support the expense. Sound like great charities.
They're wonderful. This is a wonderful group of people. They do so much for our community. So we want to.
Mr. Graham,
Yes, sir.
is your wanting to move the money from this program to extension and to animal, is that for the next budget year?
For the next budget year. And then they would just run their invoices through the county manager's office like every other budget line item. So you know how you do your total?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for clarification.
Yes.
And it was an increase to 4-H to 10,000. From 5 to 10,000, that'll have to be a separate motion, or is that?
Is this all, I don't know, is this all part of the same motion? We're talking about.
Is this for this budget year or the next budget year? Then that can be discussed at a future budget.
I think we can keep this item to funding the grants that we're talking about
So I did a motion.
today. And
I did
That was my motion, was to fund this round of grants.
I'll second that.
We got a second, Commissioner Graham. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All opposed? All none. All right.
And then if you don't want to give direction to Ron and to Trey to make changes for the coming year, whether it's, the no double dipping, or whatever other changes, those are all going to have to come back through the budgetary process for next fiscal year. But if you guys want to talk about those now, need some direction on that, that's fine.
Well, I think Commissioner Hall had a.
Yeah, I was just wondering about those entities that came before the board tonight. And they had some really good proposals, some really good evidence of how they have been spending their funds and supporting our rural community here. And you were saying they're going to be actually funded. Or each of these you came tonight?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
That's good. I'm good with that. Thanks, sir.
So can we kick around while we're talking about budget stuff, some little TDC items, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
What are y'all's thoughts about increasing some line items and putting them under TDC?
I like the money clear.
Yeah, like I was thinking the Opera House, maybe 10 grand, maybe the Chamber for the Watermelon Festival, Dirty Pecan, moved her to that over there.
Have y'all had, sorry,
No.
Mr. Chairman, have y'all had those discussions at those meetings?
No, sir, not yet.
No, that's what I was asking, Mr. Chair. But you could possibly take like Monticello Christmas, the farm tours, you know, Dirty Pecan, the Watermelon Festival, and the, which is one that I just said, Chamber, the Opera House. Could kind of increase and beef up that usage, and then also possibly consider for our 200, our bicentennial next year. Just thoughts.
That's great idea.
I didn't know if anyone had.
Because that money's just sitting there, right? There's got so many strings attached to it.
I think we, and you can only use it for marketing.
I know.
It's all for marketing stuff, so.
I would love to have that be an agenda item in itself and just have a big discussion and invite everybody, certainly in the afternoon meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Is there a way to do this where we, instead of having to pull out a contingency, we can push all this over to TDC?
Let TDC pay for it?
And pay for all of this stuff? I mean, so we're not having to.
Not for these grants. The small nonprofit grants are for like general programmatic expenses for the nonprofits. So TEC stuff is limited to, you know, your marketing and advertising to bring in tourists. So it's kind of apples and oranges there. But if you want to have a broader discussion about, you know, what TDC can pay for, because they do give out grants, but again, it's sort of for different purposes for marketing and advertising stuff. We can bring that back at a future meeting and have that discussion.
Right.
Well, not to put you back on the spot again, Ms. Barfield, but the Dirty Pecan does, what, maybe 1% of Jefferson County? That's all that is tourists that come in for Dirty Pecan. Couldn't we fund her?
That's what I was saying. Put
Grant
her
with-
under TV. Oh, I'm sorry. Misspoke. Yeah.
Yes.
You understand my question?
Yes.
Put something in TDC line item for Dirty Pecan, because that's
Yes.
That would be wonderful.
99%. I mean, that would give more to go around with our nonprofits that money can't go to.
Right.
I'm asking council and staff. I don't know. I'm just.
No, I'm in agreement. That's what I was saying. I think we should do a line item for Monticello Christmas, Dirty Pecan, the farm tours, the Opera House, and the Watermelon Festival, but put those all under TDC for, you know, and that's, I just wanted to ask you, Mr. Chair, your thoughts on that for like the next, for this 26, 27 fiscal year.
If I may. The reason I like this idea is I will know how much I can spend on advertising, and I can plan on that. For many years, I have wanted to do a retargeting, and I think this could apply to a lot of those areas that you are talking about. Retargeting is, I say I want to buy a 357, and I go online, and you pop up, and I click on that. Well, every time I open up my browser now, you're showing up. It's called retargeting. I just bought a brand new camera and lens. That's all I see now is a B&H photo. So this will give me an opportunity to maybe do some of that retargeting. In Dirty Pecan this year, we had a lot of people, I think y'all got the heat maps, east of the Mississippi. More people are coming from the north down for this event. So that would give me an opportunity to retarget, work on some retargeting material. I do Facebook, and I do it's called Grand Fondo, and they're all international, and I'll draw from them too. But that retargeting would be such a strong tool that we could use to bring more tourists here. And it can also be used as a marketing program for the entities that you had talked about, Commissioner Gramling. Perhaps we can all work together on that, but it'll allow us to at least plan.
That would be great. And Commissioner White's the chair of the TDC, so that would be something that, you know,
Yeah.
I know we can bring it up in the next meeting.
I'll be happy to come and talk to you about it also if you would want me
And
to.
I know not to get in too far in the weeds, but I know the Dirty Pecan uses a small fleet of the sheriff's personnel. Are those paid for out of Dirty Pecan, or is that?
Yes.
You know, so that may be another thing that line item could cover too. Is the because it is all tourists.
Exactly. So with the Dirty Pecan, we do pay the sheriff's deputy, and we also, it is so cute, we have, there's 4 or 5 4-H clubs in Jefferson County, and we hire 3 of the clubs to come and park all of those people at Dirty Pecan. And Dirty Pecan pays their 4-H clubs, Jefferson 4-H clubs, and Dirty Pecan pays them $500 each to park the cars. And then there's one club that serves lunch to the Dirty Pecan people. So they got their little green shirts on, and they're serving these people lunch, and it is just a beautiful sight, people. So it's not just that, it's the shit, you know, and because we're successful, we are so pleased to be able to do this. And that's what feels good, is we get to spread it out a little bit too. And that's what we like. And I would say about 80% of the people that do attend Dirty Pecan have been touched by 4-H one way or the other. So your 4-H program is vital. So be happy to talk to TDC if you need to, and thank you for being generous.
The animal ordinance is next. It's an ordinance that was created by the board at their direction July 11, 2024 to develop an ordinance to provide some enforcement ability for basic animal control provisions to include animals at large, public nuisance, animal humane care, and abandonment of animals. There was a public hearing on November 6, 2024, which time the board chose not to adopt the ordinance. The board recently instructed staff to bring that ordinance back for consideration. I would ask the board to consider, if they're not interested in this particular ordinance, that there may be some opportunities to adjust our current existing ordinance with a few subtle, augmentations and bring that back. But this animal ordinance is the one that was brought up a few years ago for consideration.
Well, there was 6 pages of ordinances, so.
Well, so I've spoken with some of our friends in the community, and so I think that we I looked at the proposed ordinance, and Evan, thank you for drafting it, and Mr. Ron and Miss Jenny for putting it in there. But then I pulled the existing animal ordinances that we already have, and those are actually the same length. They're both 18 pages long. And we talked about it, and so, we kind of think it's worthwhile to just keep our existing ordinances, and like Mr. Ron said, that we could tweak up maybe a little bit and include something on animal abandonment, for abandoning of dogs, dog fighting, and nuisance. So like if the dog comes in someone's yard and like tears up their sprinkler system, something like that. And I believe those were the main items that we talked about. The existing ordinance already allocates for, it already discusses, for instance, the dangerous dog ordinance. So like if we have an aggressive dog, if you have a dog that's coming down your road or into your yard and it's being aggressive or whatever, and we have Miss Cassie now, who's our director, and I know that personally, somebody just recently actually discussed with me, she was extremely responsive to a dangerous dog situation or aggressive dog situation. So I think we have, with Miss Cassie in place, and I'm meeting with Mr. Ron next week, and I don't know if we've had a chance to reach out to you yet, Miss Cassie, but I'd like to visit with you at that meeting as well, so we could talk about this a little bit more one-on-one. Maybe have Mr. Ron tweak it all up and Evan, and then bring it back.
I'm good with that.
Very soon. And Mr. Ron, I have to put you on the spot, but when do you think the soonest could be?
Well, we'll get to work on it, and I think we're talking about, modest changes that'll accommodate. I mean, it may not be perfect for everyone, but it gets us where we want to be, at least to start talking about it.
None of the other, with that, any other?
No action tonight, just see what y'all draft up.
It was just offered up for discussion at your request.
Thank you.
So we'll get to work on that.
Mr. Chair. Yes, sir.
One of the main things I keep bringing this up for is, in my district in particular, dogs running at large. And I understand there's a lot of concern from folks out in the country about dogs running at large and not wanting to have to put up a fence or whatever it is. Dogs running at large that aren't negatively impacting their neighbors. The intention is not to hem up a bunch of people over that, but the point remains, and I know y'all got to be sick about me talking about this daggone dog in the sanctuary, but we have got a pit bull in the sanctuary, and from what I understand, we can't do anything about it. And this dog, tell me, I don't know why we can't do anything.
Is it aggressive or assertive?
So the dog, my children go over to my parents' house in the sanctuary. They are no longer allowed to ride their scooters on the road because the dog may or may not lunge at them and start barking at them. My parents don't walk their dogs anymore on the streets in the sanctuary because that dog will come out lunging at them sometimes. So it has altered the way of these people's lives in these neighborhoods. And so I don't know if there's a way where we can go, look, have districts or zones where, hey, you've got a residential neighborhood that's zoned to agriculture, but it's more residential than agriculture. Can we overlay these with more restrictive running at large ordinances? Evan, is that something that we can look at as a possibility where we say, hey, look, there's a higher density of people, which means there's probably going to be more children. Can we have something to where this dog here can be addressed? Because, like I said, it's been like almost a year, and these people's lives have totally been changed. Kids don't go out in the streets and play there. People don't go out and walk their dogs there. They don't go walk out at night because this dog may or may not be hungry. The owner may or may not have fed it. They don't really know who the owner is. They're not really an owner of the dog. How do we fix this situation? How do we address something like that? That's what I want to know.
That would fall under an an aggressive dog. That should fall underneath our dangerous dog ordinance.
We got to come to the podium. But the dangerous dog ordinance, from what I understand, is the dog has to hurt somebody before it's deemed dangerous.
Have to start with aggressive behavior.
Okay, so first hi, I'm Cassie, Director of Animal Services. There's a whole process in deeming a dog a dangerous dog. You have to do an investigation and go down a whole rabbit hole. We've got to have probable cause and proof and everything. The dog you're talking about, her name is Katie. So I'm just, her name is Katie. There's several people out there that have been feeding her. One of the ladies that I've been in communication with, we've been trying to catch this dog since she came and hunted me down before I even was in this position. She feeds this dog scrambled eggs and different things, which is why the dog is so overweight. I had the trap out there for about a month, and I was trying to catch her, and I was going out there, and the neighbors were trying to help catch her. I've never heard anything about this dog being aggressive. Even the people on the homeowners association who have called me wanting the dog to get out of the neighborhood have not said anything about her being aggressive.
I'm telling you right now, my parents don't walk their dogs out anymore because of that dog, because it has lunged at them before and crumbled barking and whatever it is that made my mom feel so uncomfortable that she doesn't walk the dogs out there anymore.
Did she contact us?
No, because there's a handful of people in that neighborhood that are protecting this dog, and then the 98% of everyone else doesn't want the dog there anymore. So I guess I'll have her contact you and tell her experience to it. But
I just want you to know I have been trying to get this dog. As I said, I had the trap out there for weeks. We were doing different things. We put moss all over the trap and tried to hide it a little bit.
So did somebody claim ownership of the dog?
No, the dog, the eggs. Try to eggs. No, nobody's. Apparently, there's been several dogs in that neighborhood. We caught one last year and got her into a rescue. but this one is eluding the trap, and
It's eating eggs, it's not going in.
Well, the people have to quit feeding it. to
Right.
get it in.
Right,
That's the thing.
they even, the most recent thing they were trying was to get it into somebody's backyard to kind of corral her. But I've been dealing with this dog since day one, I promise. Neither Roy nor I are certified to use the tranquilizer gun right now. As soon as we are,
What would you do with that dog?
she would go into our facility and we would have to
The person
determine.
from Sanctuary came back and was like, hey, I'm feeding that dog eggs, and it runs around and
So we actually already have a rescue that's agreed to take this dog if we can catch her.
but nobody in the sanctuary can come back and say, that's my dog.
Nobody has said that it's their dog thus far, but we would, of course, hold it for the 5-day hold period that we have for somebody to come forward and say whether or not it was their dog.
And you advertise it on Facebook.
Yes, and then after that grace period, we would send the dog to a rescue.
I'd like to see an ordinance holding owners responsible for the actions of dogs.
Well, that's what the nuisance, that's what the nuisance is that in Florida law, Florida statute already addresses that. If you have a dog and it hurts another person or your animal or your property, then that dog owner is responsible.
But it has to hurt first.
No, it does, no.
It doesn't? Okay, because just
No.
I can't walk, I've lived in my property 50 years, and I can't walk down the road. I've been treated by a Rottweiler. I have rescued 10 kids on bicycles trying to ride down Cook Road, and dogs will come out, and it's all over. It's not just your spot.
Can I add something? Did you say it was a pit bull?
Hey, come over here.
Sorry.
Clayton Colbert, 231 Osceola. Did you say that was a pit bull dog?
I don't know if I said, if I did,
Okay, the reason I ask this, the HOA should legally be able to deem certain breeds dangerous and aggressive, which means with restrictions, which means if you own a deemed aggressive or dangerous dog, you could put restrictions where it has to be caged or whatever if you're going to own it. It can't roam. Just like an apartment complex or a condo unit, they restrict where you can't have certain breeds. Just a thought for future.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton.
Any more comments on that?
Hello, my name is Quinn Atkinson. I live at 37 East Cavallo Trail. My wife and I have been living there for about 4 years. We're currently building our house. We've been dealing with a neighbor who constantly has animals loose. They've not just destroyed our irrigation system numerous times, but they recently killed one of our indoor cats that got out. It was hanging out on the porch and they killed it and mauled it just the other night. Okay, we also had another feral cat that we did adopt, and the dogs killed it 2 weeks later. We have been dealing with this owner non-stop since we bought the property. We moved here for peace and quiet. We don't have it. Commissioner Hosford, I sympathize. I know your
I feel
parents.
you guys, man. I mean, it's not right. You should be able to live in peace on your property, and that's the bottom
You
line.
have a remedy under the nuisance and you have a remedy under the dangerous dog ordinance.
I just want to make sure that we can hold the
That's-
animal owner accountable.
And that's what we're working.
Their dog came on, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Their dog came on your property and
Constantly, yes, sir.
killed a cat. I mean, why would that lock in and justify?
Cassie has been great helping us with this situation.
Okay, you reported, right?
Yes, sir, numerous times into the sheriff's department when they have destroyed property.
Okay.
Numerous times.
And that's what we're doing with these ordinances.
I understand.
And they just, actually, the existing ordinance, now that we have a very competent animal control officer, and these will allow to, it already allows to issue civil citations. So the ordinance already does. They're just not really super clear.
Yes,
So
that's all I'm asking is let's make sure they are clear so we can hold them accountable.
Yeah, I feel like the law, if that dog came on your property and killed your cat, something's
Yeah,
should be
it's
done.
4
Or
dogs.
already been done. It
There's
might be, I'm just looking at it,
4
you know.
dogs.
I would, if it was my dog, I'd be upset, you know, I'd be upset about my dog doing it, but, you know,
It was
a line was
pack
crossed.
of dogs, not just one. It's 4.
Our neighbors have been dealing with this, killing chickens,
Their pet.
above goose. I mean, it's been going on. Yeah, everybody's seen it on Facebook. We're the victims, amongst others, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll see what-
Just whatever you can do to help us.
Yeah, I'd like to see something done.
These are dogs that have been allowed to become feral, that entertainment touched them. So that's our current issue.
Well, we appreciate what you're doing too.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I got one more comment to that, just because I've been doing this for 10 years. And this, Ms. Kay said she had a problem with some dogs, but I've almost never got, all the problems always come out of this area down there. And I've said it before in these meetings, it is because we're right at the doorstep of Tallahassee. When somebody doesn't want a dog, they get dumped in Lloyd. I hate it. You know, it's not happening out in Alcilla Shores. There's dogs all over. You're not getting like tons of wild dog calls. It's always consistently here. So you mentioned it. If creating some sort of, I don't know if it's even possible, attorneys have to take it from here, but creating an area. Hey, if you catch one in this area, or there's a loose dog in this area, sorry, pal. You know, I would want the citizens to, you know, but it's consistently for years and years. You never hear about them in Joaquina, Osceola Shores. It's always here, you know, and because I know those dogs they don't want them. They drive the least path of resistance, and guess what? Lloyd, Florida just happens to be
It might
that.
be worse there, but it's everywhere.
It's-
We
it's-
picked up loose dogs on 19, I picked up last year 3 different dogs right in front of the house.
I know you do, Ms. Kay, yeah, so I'm just saying consistently what comes across this board is that area down there. And so I would just wanted to refresh that.
If the board wants,
I'm sorry.
if the board wants us to explore whether you can create, you know, an area-specific regulation for running a large, I think you probably can, but I'm certainly happy to take a closer look at that and report back to you guys.
And we can also put signs, and especially in the Lloyd area, that if you abandon your dogs, if you're dumping your dogs, then there's, you know, we could do a substantial fine, like $500.
I'd put it, if somebody gets caught dumping a dog in Jefferson County, make it $10,000 and then, and set an example and then go, give the money to 4-H. There you go.
What we're gonna look into is like not just being able to issue the citation, but kind of making them like a parking ticket where it'll follow them.
Yeah.
So that there's some teeth to it, no pun intended on that, but just so that, you know, that if you issue a citation, it's gonna go somewhere, someone's not gonna just rip it up and throw it away and not care about it.
And get their sheriff's department involved. Make the fees so high that we can offset the sheriff's department's fees of having to track this person down and make you make an example of one person with that, it'll go away
Well,
quick.
our current ordinance gives a maximum amount of $8,500, just so you know. Our current ordinance.
Commissioner Gramley, we process some of these through the courthouse, and yes, there is the assumption that they don't have enough teeth. Maybe that's true, but there is consequences if the citation is written, they turn in us, they have 20 days to pay. They don't pay within 20 days, they get notice to appear
That's
in
right.
court.
That's right.
Justify why they didn't. Now, are they going to issue a warrant, a capias for not paying civil citation? I can't tell you that. But then if it's still not paid, then we will send them to collections. So there is some penalty for them not paying their citations. So if they want to rip it up, when animal control give it to them, they can, but there's going to be consequences down the line. If the board wants to increase that, by all means.
Can you criminalize it so it's attached to their driver's license? So that they can't renew their driver's license if they have an unpaid citation?
Dumping the dogs, I'm all for anything we can do.
Good evening. Steve Bentz, 523 Oakland's Plantation Road. I spent some hours last night looking at the ordinances and then the state statutes, and Jefferson County's ordinances are based on the state statutes. And the whole Animal cruelty deals with dumping dogs. It's a misdemeanor.
First degree.
First degree, okay. You know, so it's jail time in addition to a fine. You know, so there is a significant penalty for it. You know, it's not just a local, tear up the local ticket. You can enforce state laws, right? Sheriff, you do that, right? State laws. Okay. You know, so the law is there. It's not like we have to reinvent the wheel. It's there, it's written. You know, I don't remember the number. I looked at a lot of them last night. But yeah, you know, the remedy is there. Thank you.
We'll bring a draft back for your consideration. And I think we accomplish that through just enhancing our current ordinance.
All right. Sounds good. Everybody go with that?
Go with that.
All right. Item G.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this item requests the board select a short list of candidates for interviews for the county manager position. By way of background, at the February 19th board meeting, the board directed that the Florida Association of County Managers, FACM, their recruitment services program be used to assist in the recruitment and selection of the new county manager. The draft advertisement was prepared in coordination with FACM and was advertised on a multitude of platforms. The application period closed on April 22nd, and the county received 22 responsive applications, all of which are included in your agenda materials. The applications were also transmitted to a FACM committee that consisted of Mandy Hines, who's the DeSoto County Manager, Vince Long, the Young County Manager, and David Edwards, the Wakulla County Manager. They serve as independent fact finders for the county with respect to the pool of responsive applicants. These three managers reviewed the applications that were received, including the qualifications of the interested candidates and the county's identified candidate qualifications, and provided a recommended shortlist for further vetting and consideration. The following three applicants were recommended by FACM for further consideration by the board in no particular order: Douglas G. Baber, Richard J. Reed, and Robert J. Rienschow. FACM also offered the following two honorable mention candidates. Those are Suzanne Marie Linton and Brian David Stanley. Also, FACM noted that the county received applications from two veterans who met the minimum qualifications for the position. Those are Jeff Shoebridge and Sherry Coffey. State law requires that any veteran who meets the minimum requirements for the position must be offered an interview in this situation. And so I therefore recommend that Mr. Shoebridge and Ms. Coffey be included in the short list of candidates invited to interview. I want to emphasize the board is free to interview any of the candidates who apply. You're not limited to the short list that was provided by FACM. That's merely a suggestion. Regarding the interviews, there are two different ways that we can handle this. So the first is individual one-on-one interviews between each commissioner and each shortlisted candidate. These will be done in private, and it can be done either by phone or video conference or in person. And then the second option is for the interviews to occur at a full board meeting, at a public meeting, just like this one. The candidates would come in, and you would have a chance to interview them and ask questions as a full board. The board can also elect to go forward with both options, so do the one-on-ones and also the full board interview. It's really up to you guys how you want to proceed, but those are the two things we're looking for today. It's who are your short list of candidates that you want to interview, and then how do you want to handle that interview process? Do you want to do the one-on-ones? Do you want to do the full board interview? Do you want to do both? That's the item. Happy to take any questions.
Mr. Chair. Did you mention Mr. Ron Russo as one of the candidates for this?
Mr. Russo did not submit an application.
He did not?
He did not.
Oh.
So does that mean he's not going to be eligible?
I think we're going to keep him anyways. He just doesn't want it.
Is that a form of emotion? That's too bad.
I think I don't know how the FACM deal works, but I mean, if they went through it, looked at the top three, and we got to interview the two vets, and and I'm fine with one-on-one interviews.
That's what I want.
Me too.
I'd like to have them, and I'm not picking on whether it's face-to-face or on the telephone. It doesn't matter to me, whether it's the easiest for everybody. I know some of them are from out of town, so if they can't make it, if I need to do it on the telephone, I'm fine with that, but I mean, I think think we can do that, then bring it in front of the board.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, one question. Mr. Ron, what would be customary? I know it would be nice to have them all present to the board at one time, and, you know, could anybody tell me what's customary on?
Yeah.
Well, I think the last time we went through that was.
We've seen it both ways. I think Evan will tell you. You know, I think you probably a one-on-one. Maybe you're kicking the tires, or you know, a little more comfortable setting. You know, you come back as a group and talk about your final list. That's what I would prefer. But there's no shame in having them come publicly. It's, you know, it might just be a little more of a challenge. If you do want to go to one-on-ones, we'll get those set up, you know, expeditiously, and we'll work with your calendars and get you all in, spaced out, so you don't pass each other and all that. So it'll be easy lift.
Yeah, just to echo that, I've seen it done both ways. Some jurisdictions they'll start with the one-on-ones, so give each commissioner a chance to meet privately with each candidate, and then they'll come back to the full board, talk about it, and then, you know, maybe narrow down the list to just 2 or 3 or something like that, and then invite those folks to come in for full board interviews. So that's another option too, but it's really up to you guys. Again, it's, you know, it's just a matter of preference.
I'm going to meet and then come back and talk about it.
Good with that.
And then get a shorter list
Yeah.
on the board.
And then if we don't agree, you know, then we can have like the top, whatever, 2 or something.
That works for y'all.
Are y'all good with that?
Yes, sir.
You need a
We'll
motion
get
on that?
Yeah, if we can get this in the form of a motion.
All right, looking for a motion to bring the top 3 and the 2 vets in for individual.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second.
And those interviews would be virtual. You guys are good with
Virtual or
that?
in person, yeah, I mean, virtual's not gonna be a job.
It can be either virtual, one-on-one in person, or virtual or on phone.
I'm fine with either way.
Okay.
However it works. All right, we got a motion from Mr. Searles, and a second from Mr. Jeremy. Any comments? All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. All opposed? On the clerk?
Yes, sir. I know everybody's trying to get out of here, so I'll be real short. Y'all probably seen my public notice regarding the attempted property fraud. Nothing was recorded in our office, but there were some people trying to impersonate a landowner to sell their properties. So I just encourage everyone right now, the only way to protect yourself if your landowner is to sign up for the property fraud alert in just not in this county. If you own land in another county, you have to sign up at that clerk's office. So just encourage everybody to do that. So if something does get recorded that you did not do, you will be notified and can let our office know. So thanks, sir.
Thank you, clerk. Engineers? Hunter, Dak?
Yes, sir. Just want to thank you all again for letting us continue as your engineer. A few updates. I have not got word from CW Roberts on the final patch on Joaquina. As soon as we get that date, we'll be sure to get it out. We'll let the clerk know so he can circulate it around and get everybody notified on that. It should be a full closure like last time. You're getting bids back on Joaquina Highway and Boston Highway as we speak. That'll be going under construction fairly soon. And we received back some comments from Asheville Highway from DOT. Working through those, got all the responses back, so we're moving along as we need to.
Boston Highway and Joaquina, I saw contractors, they're being bid. When does that bid cycle in? When we see a winning bid on the agenda?
Joaquina closes tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. I didn't know.
Boston, I think, is June 6th.
Okay. So we'll see Joaquina on the first, or possibly on the next agenda.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you.
You said Joaquina and Boston Highway, that's phase 2, correct?
Boston Highway phase 1 and 2.
Okay, 1 and 2.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go get a hotel?
No. Wait for the time. What? He's there to go on boat.
Opens at midnight.
All right. Council?
I'll be brief. I know you're all tired. I'm tired. Just want to say thank you for the award of the contract. On behalf of all of NGN, looking forward to continue to work with you all and your staff for many years to come.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
Russo?
Thanks, sir. Super brief. June 18th, we're planning a big recognition to our military service members. We've got about 40 identified members in the various wars that they've fought in. We're going to have a reception here from 5 to 6, and we'll roll into a board meeting with a proclamation in their honor. So very excited about that. We're going to have, as I said, reception. We're going to have some food donated, and it's going to be a real big time, real special time. I also want to just make give a shout out to Dustin McCoy. He's been doing great work in our operations coordinating position. He covers facilities, fleet, and special projects. As you all may know, he was instrumental in identifying close to $10,000 in reduced premiums for equipment that we no longer had, but we're paying insurance for. So we went through painstakingly through a list, and he found us some great recovery there. But most recently, in an effort to try to supplement some badly needed equipment for county, he found the 2 club car utility vehicles and a Toro power rake for $4,600 and change, and they were valued at about $45,000. So it's a little over a 90% reduction, and good for the county on that. I would need a quick approval, if I could, on a check, because he got it through the Weeks Turf Equipment Auction. These great, beautiful pieces of equipment, and a fraction of the price, so we would want to cut a check. The motion is a 3-day.
Motion from Commissioner Hallford, second from Commissioner Zerbals. Comments? All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Where is he?
He's right there somewhere.
Hey,
Come here, Dudley.
come on.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work.
You missed all your praise. We were talking about
Appreciate it.
that.
I'm sorry.
Thank you for saying it very
I'm not gonna say it again.
much. Just watch it on YouTube.
Okay, I get it.
Is that all, Mr. Rizzo?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Hall?
Nothing tonight.
Ms. Graham? Mr. Hallford?
Hunter, you got another spot on that boat?
Certainly.
A couple things, real brief. What about Jeffrey? Did we get him a vehicle? We worked on that. I know the sheriff we were talking about getting the road department an extra truck. Y'all got one? Okay. I just hadn't heard or anything, so that's great.
The sheriff's been gracious with these hand.
Thank you, Sheriff. He does really good job. Like I said, I knew it was an issue, but that's all I got, Mr. Chairman. Move to adjourn. Good night, everybody.